My name is Ondrej, and this is the ultimate AI agents guide for 2026. Over the past 3 years, I've spent well over 500 hours building different AI agents. And each month, AI agents have gotten more and more powerful. So in this video, you're gonna learn what AI agents are, how they're gonna change in 2026, and how to actually start building them. Now, you might be thinking, who are you and why can you talk on this topic? Well, my name is Ondrej, and I've built an AI agent startup and sold it for 1.8 million. I've also personally met the founder of N8n and the entire core team at N8n. And I've been teaching people how to build AI agents since 2023. So I know a thing or two about agents. Now, why should you care about AI agents? Well, the answer is agents have never been more useful. According to McKinsey, 62% of companies are already building AI agents, and 93% of leaders say that the early movers will win. This means that AI agents have finally reached real utility and that even the mainstream is starting to catch on. And this presents us, the early adopters, with a nice opportunity, an arbitrage to be early, to get on the cutting edge, and maybe even to make some money. Now, the ROI of AI agents is undeniable. Whether that is building agents for clients and selling them, or building them internally in your own business, you need to be building agents. Companies that have successfully implemented AI agents saw a 61% boost in employee efficiency. Now let's look at a few different industries. In loan processing, there's 80% cost reduction from implementing AI agents. In customer support, 90% faster response times. In sales, 260% improvement in conversion rate when they used AI agents for scoring of leads. Now, even though AI agents have never been more useful, the window of opportunity is closing. Around 40% of enterprise apps will have AI agents by the end of this year, and companies are implementing AI agents in the millions. And I'm saying that because a lot of people think that it's optional whether they learn about agents, whether they build agents, but it's not optional anymore. You either are building agents and using them, or you're falling behind. That being said, what is actually the best tool for building AI agents? Well, the truth is there are dozens of different options. You can build your own AI agents from scratch. You can use an agentic framework. You can use one of the dozens different agent builders. But to me, one of these options stands out, and that is N8n. N8n is an open source platform that lets you build AI agents with a visual workflow where you can just drag and drop instead of writing code. This makes it both simple enough for beginners, but powerful enough for advanced people to build anything they need. And since it's open source, you can self-host N8n to protect your data, your workflows, and keep your costs under control. The beauty of N8n is that there are thousands of different integrations. You can literally connect to any tool you can imagine. CRMs, databases, APIs, messaging apps, cloud services, you name it. But even if something is missing, you can just do an API call with the HTTP node. So no matter what software you or your company is using, you can easily integrate N8n and start building AI agents and automating parts of your work and life. Now, those of you who are paying attention might ask yourself, why N8n over Zapier, Make, or other tools? Well, first off, N8n is, since it's open source, it's way more scalable, right? There is no per task billing. You're not limited to how many agents you can build. If you self-host it, or if you host it on a VPS, you can run as many agents as the VPS can handle, which often is thousands of different AI agents. Also, I would say N8n is simply more powerful. It allows you to do custom code, self-hosting, complex branching logics, and advanced AI agentic tasks, which Zapier and Make.com don't really have. And on top of all that, the N8n ecosystem is exploding. People are building their entire businesses around N8n. They have an active community forum, monthly hangouts, growing YouTube presence, in-person events, and much, much more. This is what attracts millions of people to the N8n ecosystem. This is why I said that N8n is perfect for both total beginners and experts who need more advanced solutions. For beginners, you can literally start with templates that are copy-paste workflows that you can implement into your life or business. Then, as you get more advanced, you move to custom logics, API calls, and multi-agent systems. And you do this all within N8n. So whether it's a personal automation to save you time, or an enterprise deployment for a 500-person company, N8n can handle both. So in this video, we'll look at the complete N8n fundamentals. This includes the interface, nodes, triggers, and connections. I will also explain different architectures, chat agents, tool-using agents, and autonomous workflows. And most importantly, we'll look at real implementations of N8n agents, such as lead generation, content automation, customer support, data processing, and much, much more. So here is who this video is for. It's for complete beginners who never touch automation. It's also for developers who want to add AI capabilities into their business or into their apps without building everything from scratch. And it's also for business owners who want to automate operations, reduce costs, and make their company more AI first and more future proof. Now, here's my honest advice. This is the single most comprehensive N8n and AI agent tutorial I've ever made. Most people would put this as a course and charge $1,000 for it. So if you really are serious about AI, bookmark this video, take notes, pause when needed, and actually build the agents alongside me explaining it. And if you are going to commit to a video like this, don't give up after 10 minutes. Instead, push through the friction and watch until the end. That's it, let's get started. Alright, the first thing you need to do when building any team of AI agents is define the scope of the project, right? What do you want to automate and how does that look like? For this video, I'm gonna build a team of agents for YouTube. This will save me countless hours in the future and it will basically automate the full pre-production process. So the first workflow will be the research team of agents. This will do a research about the video idea, all the news, all the sources, stuff like that. The second team will be all about the thumbnail. We will use OpenAI's Image Gen API, aka the new ChatGPT images, to design the thumbnails for any video idea we give it. The third AI agent will be all about the titles. This will generate many different title variations based on the proven formats. And by the way, you should replicate this exact process for anything you want to automate. Whatever you have in your life or business, break it down into 3 to 5 different stages and then build a specialized AI agent or team of agents for each stage. But don't worry, I'll show you exactly how to do that later in this video. And the fourth workflow in my team of agents will be about the script. The intro, the talking points, what to actually talk about in the YouTube video. So make sure to define a clear scope of the project for whatever team of AI agents you're building. That way you have clarity and direction before you jump into N8n. Okay, so to start with, we obviously need to create a new workflow. So go to the top right, click on Create Workflow. And actually, I like to name it first. So this is going to be Main AI Agent. And yes, we are going to build multiple AI agents in this one video. So as always, you need to define the trigger, right? This could be WhatsApp, this could be Discord, this could be an email or Telegram, which is what I'm going to use in this video. So just click on this plus icon, type in whatever the trigger should be. Again, N8n has literally hundreds of possible triggers. Just look at this. There's probably thousands different softwares in here. So whatever you want to trigger your N8n agents with, you probably can do it. For me, that is going to be Telegram. And from these different possible triggers, I'm going to select on a message. Now, this might feel complicated if this is your first team of agents you built in N8n. However, understanding this UI is actually very simple. On the left, this is the data coming in. In the middle, you see this specific module and how it processes that data. And on the right is the output. So all you really need to do is focus on setting up the middle correctly and watching how the data comes in from the left and gets outputted on the right. All right, so the first thing is to correct our credential. So click on Select Credential, create new credential. And actually, N8n always tells you how to set this up, no matter what trigger you choose. You can just click on Open Docs. They have documentation for basically every single part of N8n. So for Telegram, we need to create a new bot. So let's open up Telegram, go to the bot father, start a chat with the bot father, and we need to type in /new bot, enter. Again, we're just following documentation. So whatever team of agents you decide to build in N8n, they literally give you the steps so you can recreate it. So don't panic. You don't need to know everything at the start. And I think this is an important lesson. Even me, I still don't know everything. Anytime I decide to build a new AI agent or team of agents, I always have ignorance. I always have some errors that I solve on the go. So don't try to learn everything and then get started. Get started first and then learn as you're building. Okay, so after we type in /newbot, we need to define the name. I'm gonna call it YouTube Genius. Then we need a username. This needs to be between 5 and 32 characters. So YouTube Genius Bot. And this is also important. This username is global. That way it can be shared with public Telegram links. So make sure to choose something unique. Let's try YouTube N8n bot. YouTube N8n Genius Bot. Okay, finally, something that isn't taken. And as you can see, Telegram gives us this token, which, if you remember, is the access token that N8n requires. So let's go back to Telegram and let's just click on this and paste it. Command V or Control V if you're on Windows, and click on Save. And after a few seconds, you should see this. Connection tested successfully. That means your access token actually works and N8n can connect with Telegram without issues. Now inside of Telegram, you also get this link. This is the custom link to your bot. So let's start a chat with it. That way we can actually test it while running our N8n automation. Okay, so you can click off, and important thing that you should absolutely do always is save. Anytime you make some important changes inside of N8n, save it. Otherwise, you're gonna regret not doing that. Okay, let's go back into the Telegram trigger. And actually, we can test this step. So let's click on test step. And there it is. It pulled our first event from Telegram. So as you can see here, message ID, blah, 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 first name, David. So this is the text, right? Obviously, this is the only message we sent, /start, to our custom N8n bot. However, this is good. Now we know that our Telegram trigger can successfully get all this info. So what do we do with this info? Well, we connect it to an AI agent. So click on this plus, type in AI agent, and this is really the bread and butter of N8n. This AI agent is super powerful. And again, on the left, you see the data coming in. So do not get overwhelmed with this UI. It might seem complex, but it's actually very, very clear. Left is the data coming in, middle is this node. So whatever node you're in, it's the middle, and on the right is the output. How the data looks like after it's been processed by this node. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to give the AI agent the message that we sent. So whatever we sent into Telegram, as if we're communicating with the agent, we need to pass it into our N8n AI agent. So in this case, it's this text. I think it's easier if we switch to schema, and we need to find our text over here. It's right here. And then inside of the middle, we need to switch to define below. This lets us customize the user message. And all we need to do is simply drag in the variable text into the prompt. And it should be green. When it's green, you know that it's connected. This means that whatever instruction we send to the AI agent, it will receive it as the user message. Another thing we should do is add option system prompt. This lets us add the system instruction, aka custom instruction, aka system prompt of the AI agent. This is the main behavioral rule of what it should do, right? So in this case, it will be, you are a helpful assistant that helps the user automate his YouTube pre-production process. And we can leave it like this for now. Let's save again. Any change you make sure to save it. But as you can see, our AI agent is still red. That's because we didn't give it the chat model. Every AI agent needs an AI model, otherwise it doesn't have a brain, right? The model, the LLM, is basically the brain of the agent. And you can choose Anthropic, DeepSeek, Google, Grok, Mistral, or just OpenAI, which is what I'm going to use in this video. So click on OpenAI, and then we need to connect it with our OpenAI API key. So click on credential to connect with, and click on create new credential. Here, as always, N8n tells us exactly what to do. On the right, we have the steps. So first, we need to log in to the OpenAI account. So let's click on this link. This will open platform.openai.com. The first step is look into the top right. If you see your logo or your profile picture, it means you're logged in. If you don't see it, make sure to log in with the same account you use on ChatGPT. So this takes like 10 seconds. After you log in, click on dashboard and go to the left and click on API keys. Here, we need to create a new key. So on the top right, click on create new secret key. I'm going to name it YouTube N8n agents and create. Again, make sure to never share these with anybody. Treat them as passwords. Copy, go back to N8n and paste it in here. Save, and again, we need to test. Wait a few seconds, and there it is. Connection tested successfully. Beautiful. This means that N8n can successfully use our OpenAI API key to power any AI agent in N8n with OpenAI models. However, we definitely do not want to use GPT-4o, the mini. It's a terrible model. We want to use something better, such as GPT 4.1. And by the way, if you want, here you can set all the different parameters like temperature, top P, maximum number of tokens, all of that stuff. But for now, to keep it simple, I'm going to keep it as default. Again, let's save. Now, perhaps the most important part of any AI agent is the tools, right? This is what differentiates it from standard AI chatbots like Claude or ChatGPT. It's the access to the tools that ChatGPT doesn't have access to. But before we give it the tools, because for this project, if you remember the scope, we will build multiple AI agents for every stage of our YouTube pre-production process. So before we do that, because each agent is going to be its own workflow, let's actually test out if this works by adding the output. So to keep it simple, I'm going to use Telegram as well. That way we can test everything in the Telegram app. So let's click on Telegram, and it should be send message. All right, so there are two things we need to set up, chat ID and text. Text is going to be the output of the AI agent. So let's save once again, and let's click on the AI agent, and I'm going to simplify this system prompt for now. For now, just give the user clear response in Markdown format. Okay, and let's save that. And let's test this step by clicking this test button. It's calling the OpenAI model, and we have successfully run the AI agent node, but there's an error here. So let's click on the Telegram node. And the error is because we haven't defined these two fields. So let's do that now. First, chat ID. So this is the original ID, which we're going to take from the Telegram trigger itself. So let's scroll down, chat and ID. Let's drag this over. And then the text, what we want to return is just the output of the AI agent. So let's drag that in. And actually, this should be it. So let's test this step. Boom. If we switch to Telegram, there it is. We have the response. hi, welcome to YouTube pre-production, here's what I can help with, blah, blah, blah. Beautiful. This means that our AI agent can receive and respond. So now let's give it the tools necessary to actually make it the ultimate YouTube AI agent. But first, let's save. Now actually, there is a major problem with our N8n agent, and it is that it's not hosted anywhere. Meaning, even if we make it the most powerful AI agent in the world, it will not run because it is not deployed online. Luckily, there is a super simple solution how to host your N8n agents, and that is with the Hostinger VPS. First off, to visit the Hostinger site, click the link below the video. Now, Hostinger offers many different VPS plans, but I think the KVM2 one is perfect for most of you. And it's also the one me and my team use internally. So click on choose plan, and this will redirect you to the checkout. Here, select the period. I recommend going 24 months because when you build your agents, you want them to be running forever. Plus, you get a really solid deal when you go with the 24-month plan. You even get a free domain for a year as a bonus. And since Hostinger was kind enough to sponsor this video, if you click on have coupon code and type in David, you will get another 10% off of your plan. Next, we need to select the location of our server. So just select whatever is the closest to you. And then what remains is finishing the checkout. So click on continue. Next, we need to create an account, and this takes 20 seconds, super simple. Now, after you sign up, you get redirected to the billing page where you fill out your name and your billing details and complete the purchase of your VPS. So if you're serious about building AI agents, make sure to check out Hostinger. Use the link below the video. It really is the simplest way to host your AI agents. And let's create a new workflow that we're going to connect as tools. So let's remember, we're going to start with our scope. So always refer to your scope because this will keep you grounded. And if you need consulting, you can just use ChatGPT, right? If you're not sure how to break this down for whatever task you want to automate. So let's go into home, overview, create workflow. We're going to name this research agent. And as the trigger, we want to type in when executed. And for the trigger, let's click on plus and we need to scroll down and select when executed by another workflow. So since this is a research agent, by the way, let's save. We need to pass it the search query, right? So our main AI agent will first call the research team to do research about the video. Now, what does the research team need to know? It needs to know what the video is about and what to search about, right? So that's commonly named the search query. So inside of the new research agent, click on the when executed by another workflow. And here we need to do add field. I'm going to name it search query. Okay. And then let's save this. Let's go back to our main AI agent, and underneath tool, click on the plus. And here we need to do call N8n workflow tool. This lets us call another workflow inside of N8n. So really you can build basically anything with this. You can go inception and just create 10 different levels, but honestly you can automate 99.9% of things with just 2 layers, right? A main AI agent and specialized teams of agents underneath it. And by the way, this summer I'm planning on doing a Europe and world tour. So make sure to follow me on my Instagram if you want to meet up, if you're in Europe or USA. I've already met multiple interesting AI entrepreneurs through there, so just make sure to follow me here and send me a DM. I'll be doing a world tour, as I said, mainly focused on Europe, but I'll probably visit USA as well. Follow me on Instagram, it's going to be linked below, or just type in David Ondrej 1. So what I'm going to do is click on the N8n workflow tool, and we need to scroll down, and underneath source, keep it as database, and workflow, select the workflow that you want to call. In our case, we want to call the research agent. So let's click on that. And before we actually define the search query, let's organize this a bit. So I'm going to rename this tool to research agent. The name is going to be research agent. And description, this tool calls an AI agent that performs detailed and thorough web search for our video idea. Okay, scroll down. And underneath search query, we actually need to click on this button because this lets the model, aka the AI, define this parameter. However, we should give it a description. What the search query should look like. A single paragraph clearly describing the video idea and what the agent should look for. Okay, let's click outside and let's save. Now our main AI agent has this tool, the research agent tool, which it can call. Obviously, it's nothing in here, but let's test out if the AI agent can actually do it. So first we need to give it the instruction. So double click on the AI agent, scroll down to the system message, switch to expression, because this lets us click this small button to expand it to full. This makes editing the system prompt much easier. So I'm going to delete the sentence. I'm going to say, always start by calling the research agent tool, and then give the user a clear lower caps response. Okay, let's click outside of it. Let's save. And now if we test this workflow, let's click on test workflow. It's waiting for a Telegram message. So I'm going to say, hello world. Boom. It successfully got it. AI agent, call the tool, and there it is, output. Here's what you need to do, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we got the response in lower caps, so it works. And as you can see, it called the research agent. Now, obviously, the research agent is not yet built, so it didn't really return anything. If we click here, it literally just returned the search query back. However, the main thing is that our AI agent can now successfully call tools, and the tools successfully return something to the AI agent. So now let's actually build out the research agent tool. So after the trigger, what we need is another AI agent. This is going to be our research guy. We can literally rename it to research AI agent. So whatever search query comes in here, this agent will process it. So let's click on save, and then let's give it an AI model. Let's go with OpenAI again. And now you should actually see your API key in here. You don't have to reconnect it again. N8n remembers the credentials. So let's choose a different model. You can do like GPT-4o or 4.1. And actually, if you select GPT-4o search preview, this should have a built-in web search. Let's try that. So let's save this. And next up, we need to give our agent an actual system prompt. So first of all, there's multiple issues. We are not passing the input data correctly. So let's click on define below. And for this node, we need to execute it. And we need to pass the search query as the user message. There it is. And we also need to do add option system message. And we just say, you are a web search expert. Whatever search query you receive, perform a detailed web search on that. The goal is to gather as much relevant information as possible to make it easy for the user to make a YouTube video about the given topic. Format your answer as 4 detailed paragraphs. Okay, let's save that. And now let's actually run this if this works. We have an error. Model is incompatible. Okay, so basically we're getting an error that some bad parameters. So I think this specific model, which is the search one, search preview, I think it cannot accept system prompt. Okay, so let's not use this model. Let's choose a more standard AI model, such as GPT-4o. And we're going to use a different way to get the web search results. So let's save that. Let's save this. And if we run it again, we should get a response. So yeah, we get the response. However, it, since this is null, it doesn't have the topic, but it works. So now we need to give it a tool to browse the web. So let's click on tool. Let's type in SERP, and this is the Google search SERP API. Let's click on that. And as always, we need to connect the credentials. So click on select credential, create new one. And then let's open the docs to see exactly what N8n recommends doing. So prerequisites is create a server account. Let's click on this link. And as you can see, you can do this for any node. No matter how you want to extend or change your team of agents, N8n has the documentation for that. And actually, this is a common false belief among beginners. They think that documentation is exclusively for programmers and the technical people. The exact opposite is true. If you are a complete beginner, if you're a complete noob, especially you should be reading documentation. Why? Because this is the truth. This is the single source of truth of how it works. Every single software has documentation that tells you exactly what to do from the developers themselves. So we need an API key for Google SERP, and the docs tell us to create a SERP account. So it redirects us here. So let's click on register. So in here, we need to get the API key, super simple, just register and then copy the API key, paste it inside of N8n, boom, and click on save. Testing, connection tested successfully. Amazing. So now this is the tool, right? This is the tool that our research agent can use. Let's save that. Okay, so to test it out, we can actually do a simple trick. We can change the prompt here. Say, if you fail to receive the idea, just search the web for info about Trump tariffs by default. The reason I picked this is because a big news event that is not in the training data because it happened very recently. So let's test out this AI agent. Okay, it calls the tool. Let's see what the tool returned. All right, so there it is. The tool did return info about the Trump tariffs. And now let's see how the AI agent processes it. It's still running, and it finished. And yeah, cool, great, so it works. It works. So now our research agent can successfully browse the web using SERP API. So let's actually update this prompt to remove this default, because we know it works. So let's see what happens when our main AI agent runs and calls the research agent. So I'm going to do test workflow, waiting for trigger event. Let's go back to Telegram. I'm going to say, I want to make a video about the Spanish and Portuguese electricity blackouts. Okay, so this is something that absolutely does require web search. So our main AI agent delegating to the search agent. Let's see how that works. Let's click on that, executing node. So now the research agent is browsing the web and formatting the 4 paragraphs we told it to format. Okay, so it should be finished. Let's click on the research agent. And this is the output. So let's switch to Telegram to see what we have. Yeah, so clearly the research agent did return the output that went into our main AI agent, which then sent it back to Telegram. So yeah, this is great. Research agent is basically complete then. Obviously we could fine tune the prompt to make it more relevant to YouTube and stuff like that, but you get the point. Now our AI agent can delegate its research to a specialized agent. And the main reason why this is important is because the main AI agent doesn't need to have all this prompting. It doesn't need to know how to use these tools. All it needs to know is like, first I call research agent, then I call thumbnail agent, then title, then script. That's all it needs to know. We don't have to flood it with irrelevant instructions that can confuse it. That's how you keep the main AI agent powerful and focused. And by the way, if you want to copy paste anything from this video, or you just want to take this full built out automation at the end, all of that is accessible in the New Society. So there's going to be a link below the video to join New Society. Inside of the classroom, we have this templates and presets section. When you click on that, you can access all of my AI agents, all of my code, all of my prompts, as well as my pre-built automations. So if you want to just copy paste the full finished product, make sure to join the New Society. It's going to be a link below the video. Okay, so now we have the research agent and it works quite well. One tweak we can make to it is actually, we can tell it to browse the web multiple times if needed. This is something that you can do when you have dedicated workflow just for one task, right? So you can say, browse the web multiple times until you have enough information. Because it can call the tool multiple times. So let's save that. So what we need to do next is create a new workflow for the thumbnail agent. So let's go back to overview. Let's create a workflow. Let's name it thumbnail agent. And again, this is going to have the same trigger when executed by another workflow. Let's click on add field, type in idea. And let's go back to our main AI agent, click on tool, click on call N8n workflow, scroll down, keep the sources database, and then choose the thumbnail agent right here. Okay, save this, save this. Here we need to also add an AI agent. Now, again, we need to change this to define below, and let's execute previous node. Let's drag in the idea into the prompt. And this AI agent actually serves a different purpose. It serves the purpose of writing an optimized image prompt, because then we're going to generate the thumbnail, right? So we just get the video idea right here, and then this AI agent will write an optimized prompt. So let's choose the model, OpenAI. Boom, we can use the same credential. Let's choose GPT 4.1. Okay, it's good. Save it. Let's click on the AI agent, and we need to add it the system prompt again. So I have this already prepared. Let's click on expression so we can edit in full. You are a thumbnail agent focus assistant that transforms a video idea into precise image generation prompt. So again, you can pause and read this, or just join the New Society. All of that is in the templates and presets classroom. Okay, so I'm going to save this. Now we can test this step as well. So we get the idea null, and then it wrote something. Just imagine something from null. Okay, so now we need to take the prompt and feed it into the OpenAI image API, the image gen. So the way we do that, we need the HTTP request. Currently N8n, since this is so new, N8n doesn't have a native integration, but this is not that hard. It's slightly more complex, but just follow along. In terms of the method, we need to change this to post. The URL is this: api.openai.com/v1/images/generations. Authentication you can leave as none. Send query parameters, leave turned off, but send headers we need to turn on. First off, we need to do authorization parameter. Here, put in bearer space and then your API key. Again, you can get that from the OpenAI platform. Same way we did earlier. Scroll down and enable send body. Here we need to define the model, which in this case is GPT-image-1. Then we need to decide what the prompt is going to be, and that's going to be the output from the AI agent. So just drag that over. And lastly, the size of the image generated, which currently the image gen doesn't do 16:9, which is the recommended format for YouTube. So we're going to need to do 1536 times 1024. Okay, so let's save this and let's test this step. There it is, node executed successfully. So the data is 3 megabytes, so let's show the data. And we need to convert this into a file. So this is actually base 64. So we need to convert it. And N8n makes that pretty simple. Type in convert to file. Okay, so after the HTTP request, just make sure it goes convert to file. And we need to select move base 64 string to file. Here, as the input field, we need to put the result of the HTTP request. So in this case, it's the B64 JSON. Drag that over. And this we're going to name the thumbnail because it's our thumbnail. Let's test this step. Boom, there it is. Let's click on view. And we have the thumbnail that was generated by ImageGen. Huge progress, amazing. Let's save it. And then we need to save it somewhere. So let's just do Google Drive. I think most of us probably use it. And we need to upload file. So first we need to connect the credential as always. So click on create new credential. And actually I covered this in a video I uploaded 5 days ago. I'm going to link this below the video as well. So just watch this. It goes through the Google console setup. It's pretty simple. The first time you do it, it can be intimidating. But again, to save you some time, since I already covered it and since a lot of you guys watch all of my videos, I'm not going to repeat that. Again, this video is linked below if you want to see the setup. After you connect your credential, scroll down. Here we need to change this to thumbnail. And as far as the file name goes, let's drag in the idea itself. And then at the end do .png. And then select the Google Drive folder where you want this to be saved. I have a folder prepared here called N8n thumbnails. And let's actually test this step. So here is my empty N8n thumbnail folder. And if it goes well, we should see the PNG saved in there. Okay, executing node. Node executed successfully. So let's reload. Okay, we see .png. So it didn't save the name properly, but it works. I'll take it. I'll absolutely take it. Sometimes all you need is a working version. You don't need it to be perfect. So let's save it. And now we have our thumbnail agent. Actually, we need to rename this. So this is going back to our main agent. Thumbnail agent. Thumbnail agent. Okay, rename, boom, boom. Save. And we need to change the system prompt, right? So we're going to say, always follow this process. Step 1, call the research agent. Step 2, generate, call the thumbnail agent. Step 3, and then step 4, we're going to prepare. Finally, give a concise yet complete response to the user, giving him the full and completed pre-production for this YouTube video. So obviously we're gonna add these teams of agents in a bit, but let's save this. And now when we test this step, the AI agent should first call the research agent. Let's see if it does that. Okay, so it's executing them at once. That's interesting. Yeah, it actually can do that because the thumbnail agent is not dependent on the research. You can create thumbnails no matter what the research turns out being like. So I don't think that's an issue in this case. Okay, so research ended first, actually. Interesting. Yeah, the OpenAI images, they take some time. So in here, we can actually switch to executions. We can see this running for 35 seconds. Okay, it's completed. And now it's going back to our main AI agent, and he should be crafting a final response and send that to us on Telegram. Let's go back to Telegram. No, actually, we need to still run this node. So let's run that. Boom. And there it is. Here's our completed YouTube video pre-production for Video Bureau of Spain Electricity. And here's the thumbnail design. We can click on this link. Let's open this URL. Okay, this is an issue because we don't have access to this page. However, if we reload, we should see it in our folder. Yeah, there it is. Right, there it is. So I think the prompt needs to be adjusted because it is related to electricity. However, the issue is that the way our main AI agent is sending the prompt to the thumbnail agent? Let's investigate that. Yeah, right here. So the idea, we need to define this model, and then we need to add a description. A clear one-sentence description of the video idea and what the main promise of the video will be. This will be turned into a clickable YouTube thumbnail. So again, this is not writing the prompt, but it should provide it with a clear idea. And I think if we try it again, if we test the workflow again, and actually let's test the full workflow. I'm gonna say, make a YouTube video about Pope death. Another recent thing in the news that is not in the AI agent. This is, the reason I do these like super recent events is to confirm that the web search works, right? Because if we do something from 2-3 years ago, the AI agent knows about it through the training data. So even if the web search was faulty, we wouldn't know that because it's in the training data. So we need to do something super recent that the AI model absolutely doesn't know about to confirm that everything works. Okay, so the image has been created. Now our AI agent is summarizing or finalizing the report for us, which we should get into Telegram any second now. And there it is. Here's a complete YouTube production about the Pope death, research, thumbnail. Okay, so actually now we saved the properly file name. So we've solved 2 issues, seems like. Yep, there it is. So now the thumbnail is much more relevant to the video idea, and we properly save it with a real name, not just .png. Amazing, we've solved 2 issues at once. So let's go back into our editor, and we need to add 2 more agents. Okay, so next up we need to add the title agent and the outline, aka the script agent. So let's go back to our thumbnail agent and let's create a new workflow. Let's name it title agent. And this one is going to be very similar to the research one. Obviously, we don't have to do the research. We can just skip this step of doing the SERP API. However, we still need to do the input triggered by workflow and then the AI agent. So to save you some time, I already prepared this. So again, when executed by workflow, boom, idea string, let me AI agent with a prompt. Let me show you the prompt. So you are a YouTube titles tool, a specialized assistant whose sole job is to turn video idea into 10 distinct SEO optimized clickable title variations. Again, all of the prompts, including the JSON files where you can just literally click on import from file. All of that is in the new society. So if you want to take this and just use it yourself, go ahead. By the way, if you have any issues, if you run into any errors, we host 2 support calls a week in the new society. We can help you with anything. All right, let's get back on track. So in terms of the OpenAI chat model, we need to fix this. GPT 4.1 is fine. So yeah, let's actually save this and let's go back to our main AI agent. Let's click on the plus tool, another N8n workflow tool. Let's rename this again, title agent. This tool calls a specialized AI agent that will return 10 optimized YouTube titles. Okay, and then again, workflow, title, agent. Scroll down, and we need to click on this AI generation button, and we need to describe what the idea is. I'm gonna say a clear 1-sentence description of what the video idea is about. All right, save. Let's move this in here. And once again, we can test out the AI agent step. Well, actually, no, we need to kill it. The reason for that is because we haven't adjusted the prompt. So let's click on the agent. We need to update the system prompt. See, step 3, call the title agent. All right, so it needs to call the actual tool. Now, if we rerun it, it should be running all 3 tools, not just the first 2. Right, so first it does the research, correct? Then it starts generating thumbnail, yeah. Okay, while this is running, we can actually start working on the 4th workflow. So let's go back to our title agent. Let's click on this plus, workflow, and this is gonna be our script agent. And again, to save you some time, I prepared this because it's very similar to the title agent and to the research agent. But I'm still gonna show you all of the notes, of course. So here it is. You should probably recognize this layout by now. When executed by another workflow, we passed in the idea as a string, then AI agent with a custom prompt. Feel free to read through this. Basically, it's writing a script and a video. The prompt is pretty well optimized, I would say. And for the model, we need to fix this again. Select the credential that works. And let's save this. Let's go back. This is still running. Yeah, the OpenAI image generation API is kind of slow. So it takes like a minute, maybe a minute and a half. So it finished finally. Title agent should be fast though. Yep, it was fast. So now our main AI agent is summarizing everything. Let's go back to Telegram. Or actually, we only did trigger this one. Yeah, okay, so we don't have to go back. Just click here. And we can run this step. And we should see the new, yeah, there is the new message. So it's the video idea is the same because I haven't changed that, but here we have the research summary, then the thumbnail concept, then the 10 titles. This is the new edition. If we go back to the video, we should see, there it is, a new thumbnail. There's the new thumbnail, yeah. So now let's add the script agent, the same process. Click on plus tool, call N8n workflow tool. At the bottom, we need to select script agent. We need to rename this again, script agent, and as well as the name. I'll say this tool will call the script agent, which will write the intro, outline, and talking points for the YouTube video. Scroll all the way at the bottom, click this AI generate icon, and add a description. So again, this is the video idea. You have to think about it for the script, right? So you'll say a clear 1 paragraph description of what the YouTube video should be about in terms of the actual content and script. Save. Let's move this in a row so it's nice. And now we can do a full test. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete this test. Click this trash icon. This doesn't delete anything. It's just the test data. And then I'm going to say test workflow. And actually, no, I'm going to activate it so we can test it properly. So now it's activated. So if we go into executions, here we will see when this is triggered properly. So let's go back into Telegram. And you can use this from your phone, from your computer, doesn't matter. In a Telegram, just make sure to message your YouTube Genius. And we can even clear the history just so you can see how it's fresh, right? So you can say, hello, my AI agent. I need you to start working on a YouTube video about, and let's pick some other recent topic. I'm going to say Thailand, the recent Thailand earthquakes and the implications on future skyscrapers. Okay, just a random video idea I just pulled out of my, right now, just pull out of my head. There we go, YouTube friendly. So boom, send it, and we should see a new execution here. There it is. New execution is running. Execution is running. It will show here once it's finished. So obviously, since we have 4 different teams of agents, this could take a minute, especially the thumbnail one, right? The OpenAI image generation API. That is pretty slow. But yeah, this will take like 2 minutes to run. But personally, if I had to do this as a person, all of this pre-production, it would take me at least 2 hours, more like 3 or 4 hours to be honest. So this AI agent will save me tons of time. And if you run a YouTube channel yourself, if you want to start a YouTube channel yourself, it will save you a lot of time as well. And not only that, the titles and the script are pretty optimized. So if you don't know what you're doing and you are new to YouTube, new to content creation, you'll get really solid titles and really solid intro and script outline from this. Obviously, the thumbnails, the issue is that they're not 16:9, so it sometimes can be cropped a bit. This one is good. This one is good, but yeah, sometimes you have to run it multiple times. Or you can just instruct the main agent to run it multiple times if you want 3 thumbnail variations, say, per video idea. But see, you could be on your phone. You could literally be in a restaurant, chilling, having dinner, and say like, I want to make a video about X or Y. And you just message your AI agent on Telegram, and by the time you get home, you have full pre-production and you didn't have to lift a finger, apart from typing the message, obviously. So yeah, we are living in the future, guys, and if you do not recognize that, I don't know what to tell you. If you don't see this video and you don't build at least 1 team of AI agents for your specific use case, maybe this one isn't relevant to you. That's fine. Just build something, okay? I don't care how simple it is. I don't care if it needs improvements. Build an AI agent that will save you time every single week. Even if it's 10 minutes a week, it will add up. It's the first step towards automation and building agents. It's huge. So don't just watch this video. Actually take action. Take action, build something, create something, automate some repetitive, boring part of your life that you don't like doing anyway. Or maybe going through your email. I have AI agents going through my emails, marking most of them as read, and only the important ones marking for start and leaving them unread. This saves me multiple hours per month, and it was a simple N8n agent. And now you know how to build it with this video, and again, with the previous one I just uploaded 5 days ago. If you want to add any Google components like Google Calendar, Google Drive, Google Docs, Gmail, this video covers how to do that, okay? So, is this finished? Because we got a Telegram message. Yeah, so it took like roughly 2.5 minutes. And here is the pre-production. Here is your completed YouTube pre-production. Here we have the research summary. Here we have the thumbnail, which again is in this folder. Let's check it out. It's actually a pretty solid thumbnail. Obviously, it could be improved like this. You know, this T is kind of sketchy, but this is better thumbnail than 90% of new YouTubers could create easily. Nice contrast, few elements, big text, clear. Yeah, not bad at all. And guys, the OpenAI image generation is the first version of that. It will get better rapidly. Imagine in 6 months, 12 months. You have to train yourself to think ahead. In the AI space is ever changing. So don't look at the current version of this. Imagine how good this will be in 12 months. It's even hard to imagine, to be honest. All right, let's see. Telegram. 10 optimized titles. These are actually pretty good, to be honest. How earthquakes shape future of 5 skyscrapers. I could see myself using that if my channel wasn't exclusive about AI, obviously. And we have the script, we have the intro, short intro, straight to the point. Then we have the outline and talking points. Very nice. Full pre-production from a single prompt you can write in 10 seconds. So now that you know the basics of AI agents, let's dive deeper into the concepts behind the nodes, plus some other lesser known tips. Here are 20 N8n tips every AI agent builder should know. Number 1, the set node. This is one of the most essential nodes inside of N8n. It allows you to easily format data before sending it down the flow. And it's especially useful when you have multiple triggers and you want to format it into the same message, such as agent input right here. And then we have an AI agent that just can have JSON.agent input, no matter which trigger it came from. Tip number 2. It's the if node. This is a simple if-else statement, just like in programming. If the condition defined right here is true, it'll be sent right here. If it's false, it'll be sent right here. And if you get an error, it'll be sent in the third path. The if statement is one of the most essential programming concepts out there, and that's why it's one of the most commonly used nodes inside of N8n. Tip number 3 is the switch node. You can think of this as a more powerful version of the if node. Instead of just having true or false, which is only 2 options, the switch can have way more options and you can validate data against multiple different conditions. Tip number 4, another essential node, is the filter. This one is used to narrow down the amount of data you have. So let's say you have 50 different leads coming in and you want to only have people who have income over $5,000 per month. You would set the condition in a filter and only those who pass that condition would continue down the flow into the rest of your automation. Now, tip number 5 is a bit more interesting because this is the think node, usually used with an AI agent. And this is basically a way to make the agent think even when you're not using a reasoning model. Basically, the think node acts as a tool that the agent can call to do a bit more thinking before taking action. So maybe you didn't give it sufficient data and the AI agent is unsure what to do. It can call the think tool with specific instructions that you give it to think about the problem in a different way and then make the decision. Very underrated node inside of N8n. N8n tip number 6 is the MCP tool. This is one of the most powerful nodes inside of N8n. Why? Because you can give it to your AI agent, which already has access to like hundreds of different tools, right? This is the power of N8n. But with the addition of this MCP node, you can contact any MCP server that exists. For example, here I'm using Vectel, which we recently added MCPs to Vectel. If you're not using Vectel, go to Vectel.ai and sign up. It's the AI productivity of the future. But you can use any other MCP like the GitHub one, the Figma one, the Playwright one. There is thousands of different MCP servers in the world. And if you understand this single node inside of N8n, you can give your AI agent access to use all of them. So master this one node. Do not avoid the concept of MCPs. I know it might seem intimidating at first, but if you learn it, you'll be ahead of 99% of other people using N8n. Trust me. By the way, this entire AI agent, even with the MCP setup for Vectel, is available in the New Society, in the classroom right here. We have templates and presets. You can access all of my AI agents, pre-built automations, all the other resources from my videos right here, plus exclusive content. Join the New Society. It's going to be linked below the video. Now back to N8n. Tip number 7 actually isn't a node, but it's how to handle errors. A lot of beginners struggle with this, right? For example, here, we can see that on the if node, we have the error option. But if you go into settings, right here at the top, you switch to settings, there is this option on error, and you can select what should the node do when an error happens, right? Either stop the workflow or continue with the extra error output. So this means that you have this extra field, so you can customize what happens if an error happens. So maybe you send that to a different AI agent that processes it, analyzes what happened, corrects that data and sends it down the workflow. But a lot of people never check this setting and do not customize what happens on error, which is a mistake. Tip number 8 is having a separate workflow for errors. So there's actually an error trigger inside of N8n, another thing that many people don't know, so that you can completely separate what happens when error happens from your main workflow that is like designed, in the 95%, 98% of situations when your automation is working flawlessly. Perhaps you want to handle your errors completely differently. That's why having the error trigger is useful, to have it in a separate workflow. Now, the beauty of having an error workflow is that it can be triggered automatically when any error happens here. So that, for example, here, you get an email message to myself. This is, David@gmail. It's obviously not my Gmail, but I can put in like david@vectel.ai. Whatever your email is, you can put a WhatsApp message, Telegram message, and basically you can get a quick ping, a quick notification that, hey, there is an error in your automation that wasn't handled properly. Go look at it and go fix it. So I definitely recommend having an error workflow for more complex and critical automations, such as if you get paid by a client, a couple $1,000, you want to make sure that their automation runs. So definitely set up an error workflow with an easy way to contact you if something goes wrong. Now, actually, there is a big problem with our AI agent right now, and that's because it's not hosted anywhere. And the issue with using the default N8n hosting cloud is that, number 1, it can get expensive, and number 2, it's limited by the number of executions, right? I don't want to be limited by how many times my AI agents can run. If I build a powerful AI agent, I want it to run as many times as I need to. This is where Hostinger comes into place. Hostinger is how I host all of my N8n agents, and that's because there is no limit on the amount of executions. Because with Hostinger, you get your own server. Here is how to set it up. If you get the KVM2 plan, which I would recommend you to get, you can literally run hundreds of AI agents on this plan, and it will cost you way less than if you used the N8n cloud. Especially if you go with the 24-month option, which I definitely recommend you do, because you want your AI agents running forever. You build them once and they save you time in perpetuity. And since Hostinger was kind enough to sponsor this video, if you use the coupon code DAVID, you will save additional 10% off on your annual or 2-year plan. Then what remains is selecting the server location, so just select whatever is closest to you. I'm in Czech Republic, so Germany is super close. And then for the operating system, click on N8n. They literally have a one-click install template for N8n. It couldn't be any easier, so click on confirm, and then click on continue and log in with your Hostinger account or just create one. And the last thing that remains is filling out your billing details and your credit card. I've been using Hostinger for months to host my N8n agents, and it really is the simplest and most affordable way to do so. So again, make sure to check out the link in the description and remember to use code DAVID to get 10% off. Alright, so once you have your Hostinger VPS, go to the panel, click on Home and select Manage. Here we can see how our virtual private server is running and all the usage you see about it. So this is another advantage over the N8n cloud. You can actually see this data that N8n otherwise wouldn't give you. So all we need to click is Manage App, and this will launch the N8n server where we can see all of our AI agents. Alright, N8n tip number 9 is keyboard shortcuts. So a lot of you are not using keyboard shortcuts enough, so here are the most essential ones. Control plus scroll is, scrolling and zooming in. Control S, just like in any file, is a quick way to save. Control or Command Z, by the way, all of these are Command on MacBook, Control on Windows, right? So just use your imagination. If you have a MacBook, replace Control with Command. So Command Z or Control Z is undo. So let's say you accidentally delete a node, oopsie, boom, Command Z, Control Z, undo. Control A is select all. So maybe you just want to quickly move everything around. Easy way to do that. Control C is an easy way to just copy a node. Control V, you paste it in. Control X or Command X, you cut it and then you paste it, right? So it doesn't copy it gets moved. And the last two essential keyboard shortcuts is D. This is how you disable a node. Boom. Deactivate it. Super fast way to deactivate. And P is how you pin the data inside a workflow. So when your workflow is running and you don't want to reset it from scratch each time, just press P on the node and it will pin that data. So take a screenshot, memorize these shortcuts, and actually start using them, because this is going to make you a much faster N8n user and your productivity will become that much greater. N8n tip number 10 is a custom way to use the schedule trigger. So let's say you have a new workflow, boom, plus workflow, and we're going to use the schedule trigger right here. Most of you just use one of these default intervals, right? Seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, or months. But there is this custom one, cron, and this can handle a lot more customizability than all the other ones. For example, if you want to have something run every single day at 4:05 a.m., you can do something like this, right? 5-4 asterisk asterisk asterisk. And by the way, if you want to learn more about cron jobs, there's this website crontab.guru where you can set this up. It's actually not that difficult. I mean, the first time you look at it, it can be intimidating, but it gives you way more customizability over your schedule trigger. Now, this is particularly useful when you want to do something like only during the weekdays from 6 to 23, right? So like there is a 7-hour gap in the sleeping time, and then 1 through 5 is the days of the week. This normally you couldn't really do with the custom trigger interval, or you would have to have multiple triggers. It would be a mess. But cron allows you to put in custom ranges like this to have an automation run only during these specific periods, which can be very, very useful. Tip number 11 is the execution tab. So most of your time when you're building your automation, you're going to be probably stuck in the editor right here, right? But just as powerful is the executions. And most of you don't spend enough time in this. This is where you can see specific executions of your automation with the data, how that data looked at that time. This is the most important part. You can debug, okay, this one ran into error. What happened? What was the data looking like before it went to the AI agent? What was the prompt looking like? Okay, the agent didn't do the correct thing. Maybe my system prompt is bad. Or the agent did the correct thing, but it was misformatted. Executions tab is very OP, especially the more complex your automation gets. And most people don't realize that you can actually see what that data looked at the moment. It's not just to see when the execution ran. You can click and look into a specific execution and see the entire state of your automation at that time. So definitely spend more time in the executions tab, not just in the editor. Tip number 12, when you have the data pinned, for example here, you can see that in the Gmail trigger, you have this purple icon, which means the data is pinned. Right here, it says data pinned. You can build your automation way, way, way faster. So instead of having to like resend yourself an email to get the trigger every time, which a lot of you are doing because you don't know how to pin the data, which is super simple, it's literally right here. Boom, you have this pin, unpin data, or you can click here, unpin. This will allow you to build and test your automation that much faster because you don't have to like switch to Telegram each time, send yourself a new message and stuff like that. You can use the same data and just like, boom, run. Once this node is good, boom, run this node, run it 5 times, 10 times. Once you're happy with it, continue and build your automation way faster. Pinning data is absolutely essential if you want to build N8n automations as fast as possible. Tip number 13 is using OpenRouter. So a lot of you probably do not know what OpenRouter is, and it's basically an easy way to use any AI model in the world. So for example, if you go to OpenRouter, you can see GPT 4.1, you can see the model, you can see the different providers. This one only has OpenAI. You can see the different apps using it, such as Vectel right here. As you can see, we are at number 17 of the most consumers of GPT 4.1 tokens. So if you aren't using Vectel yet, go to Vectel.ai, give it a shot. But basically, if you use OpenRouter as the model for your AI agent, you can use any AI model that exists, not just the ones that N8n offers, right? Obviously, they have the main one like Anthropic, Google Gemini, OpenAI. They have the main ones. But let's say you want to use something obscure. If you go into models, and if we click on sort, you can click on newest and use like these super obscure models, right? Mistral, Minimax, Google Gemini 2.5 Flash, Kimi Dev 72B. I don't even know what these models are. Basically, you can use any model out there, open source models, small models, unrestricted models, whatever you want, if you use the OpenRouter chat model node to power your N8n AI agents. Definitely OP. And another reason why it's OP, let's say you're using Claude for Sonnet, right? Most people would just use it through the Anthropic node. However, what if Anthropic API is down? Then your entire automation will not be running because of one API provider being down. If you use OpenRouter, here you can see Cloud for Sonnet has 5 different providers. So let's say Anthropic is down, right? This provider is completely unavailable, completely crashed. No problem, you might get redirected to Amazon Bedrock or one of the free Google Vertex data centers that exist in different parts of the world. This is why if you want to build a stable N8n automation, using the OpenRouter node is a very good idea. Tip number 14 is using the now convention. So in any expression field, right? For example, here we have a set node, but in any expression field, it could be inside of an AI agent prompt. You just switch from fixed to expression. You can put in now inside of curly brackets with the $sign, and this will give you the exact date time of this moment. You can see right here how the result looks like, or you can add that format with the specific format you want to be followed, and that'll give you a much cleaner format, for example, to put in into a system prompt for AI agents. So yeah, the now expression is very, very useful for prompts, especially if you give your AI agents the current date. This is like one of the most general ways to make your system prompts better, is just to give the agent knowledge of what date it is, which is perhaps one of the most valuable pieces of context that an AI can have. What is the exact date and time? Maybe in the morning, it should take different actions than in the evening. Maybe on the weekend, it should do something else than on the weekday. That's where using the now expression with custom formatting comes into play. Tip number 15 is retry and fail. So go into any N8n node, click on settings, and here you have this toggle retry on fail. Here you can select what happens if the execution of this node fails. So first of all, number of retries. So usually the 3 is default, it's fine. You can do 5, you can do 10, it's up to you. I would recommend 3 to 5. And how long it should wait in terms of milliseconds. So this is 1 second, you can do like 5 seconds. How long it should wait between trying again. Sometimes spamming it is not the best move. So like 5 seconds is good, 10 seconds is good. And yeah, using the retry on fail is very, very powerful, especially for nodes that are not the most stable, right? Like if you use like a AI model that just came out and it's like super high demand, they don't have enough providers, retry on fail can be a very good solution there. Tip number 16 is inside of the main settings of the workflow. So click on the 3 dots, click on settings, and if you scroll down here, you can see timeout workflow. This is useful if you have a detailed workflow and you want to make sure that it doesn't get stuck too much. Maybe you have a lot of expensive AI models that you're calling and you don't want to make sure that you don't go broke, right? You can click timeout workflow and timeout after how long. So maybe, after 5 minutes, if it's stuck, it times out. Or maybe after 1 hour, depending on how complex your workflow is. When the limit is hit, N8n first tries a soft stop. If that doesn't work, then it kills the process and it logs the run as cancelled. That's how you can see it in your executions tab. Tip number 17 is adding tags. So it's actually quite visible right here, but a lot of people ignore it. You can add a tag to your workflow to organize them better. So maybe you can say like personal automation, boom, personal. Or you can say like AI agent, right? Some N8n automation doesn't even need AI. Or you can say like Telegram trigger, whatever tag you want to use to categorize your automation. This is a very useful feature, especially if you have a lot of N8n agents like we do at our company. Using the tags can be a fast way to move around, to switch around, to see what you're looking at, to quickly understand, okay, this automation is using this type of trigger, or is using this type of AI model, or is outputting on Gmail, stuff like that. So use tags, especially once you reach like 10 plus automations. The next N8n tip, tip number 18, works inside of any variable or any input, and that's to provide a default value. So when you do these 2 vertical lines, so let's say JSON ID is default, but then if that fails, you would do JSON chat input, right? So like, let's say this could be like a prompt. If it's not generated by AI, then you would have a default amount. Or let's say it should collect a date from a calendar event, but if that fails, then it will use today's date as a default. So anytime you want to make sure that you have like a default value, just put your main variable at the beginning of the expression, followed by these 2 vertical lines, followed by what should be the fallback in case the default fails. N8n tip number 19 is the code node. So this lets you write code. Now, if you're completely like, oh, I'm no code, that's a limiting belief. You should get completely rid of that. Even personally, I started the habit of spending the first hour of each day on improving my coding skills. Even though like I'm already one of the best vibe coders in the world and I built an entire startup and scaled it to over $10,000 a month with just vibe coding, which by the way, all of that is documented in the New Society right here. How I built Vectel from zero to over $10,000 a month, which I don't think you can access anywhere else on the internet. So if you want to build your own AI startup, join the New Society. This is one of many exclusive resources, so check it out. But anyways, if you want to use custom code in N8n, this is how you do it with the code node. So here you can put it JavaScript, for example. They also support Python, but that's in beta. Maybe in the future they'll support other languages, but with Python and JavaScript, you can do basically anything, right? And then whatever you want to do to your data, like custom formatting, custom parsing, processing, those are the most common ways people use the code node inside of their data. But in reality, you can do anything with code, right? The code node is there for you. So anytime you're like feeling, man, I wish N8n was a bit more customizable. I wish it could do a bit more. Maybe it could be solved with the code node, and maybe you're just limiting yourself by avoiding code. So one of the best habits you can do is put 20 hours into learning the fundamentals of programming. Whether it's JavaScript or Python, obviously these are the most popular languages in the world. All of you, I would highly recommend you put in 20 focused hours in learning the fundamentals of one of these languages or both. And this will massively improve your technical understanding when it comes to N8n, building AI agents, AI automations, or anything tech related. Definitely highly recommend, and especially it will allow you to use the code node with confidence. And tip number 20 is when you should use a simple AI chat node and when you should use an AI agent. Because, you know, it can be tempting. Oh, yes, I want to use an AI agent. It's fancy. It's, you know, seems to be more powerful, stuff like that. But a lot of the times it introduces unnecessary complexity. Whereas the chat mode, all you do is like you feed in a simple data point, you give it a prompt and you have a simple output. And there is not much that can go wrong. Not only is this fast, it can also be cheaper since there is like less context being fed in, less tool calling, stuff like that. And it's great for like quick summaries or classification, or where you don't need an advanced AI agent with tons of tools. Now, if you do need more complex workflow, like here, for example, where the AI agent is doing a lot, it has an MCP server, a think tool, a Gmail node, you know, simple memory, structured parser, then obviously the AI agent comes into play. And you can think of the agent as like the orchestration brain, right? It can choose between different tools, HTTP, browser, database, and call them in sequence and make a lot of the decisions. But if it's like a very linear workflow where you don't need the agents to make any decisions, you just need an AI model to do something specific, using the specific chat mode is oftentimes the better move. Now you know the essential tips, but recently N8n has the biggest update ever. They added the AI workflow builder, and basically it can build any workflow by you typing plain English into that. Let me show you how to use it. All right, so let's jump into N8n, and if you've never used N8n before, this is the simplest way to build AI agents, especially with the latest update. So you can see there's a brand new button right here. So if you click on Build with AI, this sidebar slides in. You can also open a sidebar by clicking this button, N8n AI. Now, to be honest, this opens a completely new era of building AI agents because you can literally now use AI to build AI agents and automations. It's crazy, okay? Let me just show you. So I'm gonna send a prompt. Here's a very simple automation that in the past you could build in 10 minutes, but now N8n will build it for you in less than a minute. So if you're wondering, David, is OpenAI going to replace N8n? The answer is no, because N8n is fully focused on automations while OpenAI is doing all kinds of stuff. There we go. So you can see this was like 20 seconds and we can, there it is. The agent is built. N8n is cooking. This is the biggest N8n update of all time, guys. Pay attention because in this video, I'm going to show you everything you need to know about the workflow builder and how you can use it to completely transform your business or your personal life. So just like that, from a single prompt in 30-40 seconds, we have a complete agent with 0 errors. Pretty amazing if you ask me. So let's look at what it did. First, the assistant searched through available nodes. So it has complete access to the N8n documentation, so it knows all of the nodes and all of the different connectors that work and exist inside of N8n. Then it added the necessary nodes. You can see that the N8n assistant added them, but they were not connected, right? They were just like scrambled across the canvas. But that's what the next step is for, connecting nodes. It ordered them and connected them properly the way I wanted them to be. And lastly, and maybe this is the most important step, it updated the node parameters. So if we click inside of each node, you can see it already has my credentials filled in. Guys, this is insane. This really is like N8n 2.0. This is the biggest update of all time. If you're not building AI agents, you really are falling behind because it has gotten easier than ever before. And there is literally tens of millions of businesses in this world that still don't use any AI. the opportunity is enormous. And you can see even the system prompt. Wow. The model is selected. Gmail is pre-filled. My own job is getting automated. This is crazy. So let's actually take a look at it. There's this button, execute and refine. We can do that. And let's see if we run into any errors. It will tell us what to do and how to test it. Seems like no errors so far. That's that. 0 errors. Workflow executed successfully. Let me load up my email. Did this actually work on the first try? That's insane. So here's my actual email. So it created a draft, okay? That's already amazing, but it's empty. So it didn't get the content. So let's look at that. And here is the issues. Okay. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just spread this apart and delete these incorrect variables. So I'm gonna drag in the correct snippet, save it. Remember to save any changes in N8n, and I'm gonna rerun this. Okay, this time we got error in the Gmail tool. So let's look at that. And actually, instead of fixing that myself, let's just ask the assistant. So I'm going to say, fix the error in the Gmail tool. Boom. The error occurred because the AI was generating a placeholder, send an email. Okay. We can actually probably click this. We should probably just manually drag in the person that sent the email, and we're going to run it again. Does it work now? All right, no errors this time. Let me check the drafts. Wow, it actually works. Thank you for reaching out to check out my YouTube channel. I appreciate your honest observation. I mean, I don't know what to say. 3 months ago, this would have taken 10-15 minutes to build, right? If you're a beginner N8n, maybe 30 minutes. Now it was like 1 minute and I just fixed 1 error. But if you think this is amazing, just wait until you see the other 2 agents. Now, admittedly, the first agent was pretty simple. So now let's build a more sophisticated, more powerful agent. So let's go to the top left and click on plus to create a new workflow. There we go. Here's an empty workflow. Now, if you look into the top right, you'll see that there is 2 modes in the N8n AI. The ask mode, which if you use cursor or Claude code, is the same idea. This one doesn't make changes to your actual automation, right? So you can understand like maybe how to change something. It can help you explain documentation, but it cannot do stuff. But then there's the build mode. This is like the agent mode that can make changes. So the build mode is the actual powerful one. However, there is one shortcoming, and that is the 1000 character limit you can input in this field. So if your prompt is very long, sooner or later you will hit the limit. There we go. You've reached 1000 character limit. And to be honest, a lot of my prompts are well beyond 1000 characters. So let me show you a workaround. To get around this 1000 character limit, I'm going to use Vectel to split the build idea into separate chunks, and we're going to build the AI agent 1 node at a time. Plus, another benefit of this approach is that we can use any of the latest and greatest models inside of Vectel, while in N8n, they don't really tell us which model this is powered by. So if you want to use the greatest model from Anthropic, for example, Sonnet 4.5, you can do that. Now, what this agent does is that it analyzes your calendar every single day, how much time you spend working, what did you work on, how productive were you, and then gives you a concise report. And here we have detailed instructions for the first node, which will be a daily trigger. And it even gave me the prompt for N8n agent. So let me copy this, switch back to N8n, boom, and I'm gonna have it built 1 by 1. So this is a simple solution to the 1000 character limit, because obviously this is a very short and optimized prompt. And there we go. Since it was a simple node, this took like 10 seconds. And now I can screenshot the output of the N8n agent, boom, copy that, paste that into Vectel's chat agent and say, done. Let's go to the next node. So let's copy the prompt for the N8n AI again, send that. So now it's going to do a set node. And this node needs to set 2 variables. Okay, so it added the node and now it's to connect it. There it is, nice. And you can see that it's working. These diagonal dashes indicate that the AI is working. And there it is, node has been connected. And actually, I really like this approach because instead of trying to one-shot everything, which can go wrong, and then you can get stuck in what's called debugging hell, where you have many errors in dozens of different nodes, especially if you build complex agents. This approach of building it 1 node at a time, I think this is going to be the approach that people take, because it will really allow the N8n AI to focus on getting the node right, instead of it getting overwhelmed with like doing 8, 10, 12 different nodes at once. Okay, so once again, I'm gonna screenshot the results of the N8n agent and tell that to Vectel. Done. And also give us the expected results so we can see what the automation should look like to check it at any point of the building. So let's see. We have the daily 6 p.m. trigger correct, and let's see if this is set correctly. It is. Wow. N8n AI is not bad actually. All right, let's see the instructions for node 3. This is the get today's calendar events, so Google Calendar. So this one will be more complex, but I think the N8n AI can get it. It needs to do get many. Look at this step-by-step process, man. The engineering behind this is really clean. N8n really cooked with this one. This is like the most demanded feature probably. We have an error though. Parameter calendar required. Okay, so I just need to select the calendar. Oh, and another thing that comes with this update, which by the way, this update is rolling out, so you might not have it if you're watching this the day this video was uploaded, but it's getting released this week, so everyone will have this. N8n was just kind enough to give us early access, so shout out to Max and Dylan. Anyways, another big thing is the credentials were improved. So if you click on create new credential, signing in with Google used to be very complicated. But luckily, now they went through the costly Google audit of the entire code base, and now it's literally just one button. I'm gonna have to blur it out, but basically you select your account, the one that you want, and then you select all to give it access, continue, and connection is successful. No more Google Cloud Console, no more credential, client ID, OAuth, none of that. We just connected the account like that. And boom, the account is connected. It never has been easier to build agents, guys. If you still haven't gotten into agents, what are you waiting for? It's now like so easy. Amazing, man. I'm gonna save this, boom. I'm gonna pull up the AI again and we're gonna run the button disappeared. Well, whatever. I'm just gonna let Vectel know that it's completed. We're gonna get to the next step. Boom, paste it in, done. All right, this is gonna be more complex. This is the code node. And Vectel even gives the JavaScript code. Okay, so this is the benefit of using Sonnet 4.5. And actually, this is the benefit of having all of the latest, greatest models in a single chatbot, is that you can switch to the best model for code, right? So Anthropic is specializing for software engineering and code, while OpenAI is more like a friendly chatbot, whatever. Or you can just use open source models like GLM 4.6. But what I'm trying to say is that you can use Sonnet 4.5 in Vectel to generate the best possible JavaScript you can, and then you can use the N8n AI to build the actual automation. But basically, you're using the best of both worlds, right? The N8n AI knows the N8n documentation. That's what it's best at. But it's probably not the best coding model, let's be honest. However, Sonnet 4.5 is. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy the prompt for the agent, but then I'm gonna copy the code that Vectel gave us, and I'm gonna trust this code over the code that N8n AI generates, because again, we have no idea what model this is using. Realistically, it's probably some cheap model, could be GPT 4.1, I don't know. N8n hasn't revealed that, but I'm just gonna use the greatest model from Anthropic, Sonnet 4.5, to maximize the odds of our automation working. So let's check it out, transform events. We have some code here, but I'm gonna replace this. And also you can see like, this is bloated. 42 lines, the Sonnet one is 31, so much cleaner. Anyways, we might need to actually borrow items as input.all. This part was good from N8n AI, but the rest I'm gonna trust Sonnet 4.5 with. So let's save this and let's move on to the next step. Let's actually run this. Let's look at the output here. Return, so this should be a JSON of events, and it does seem to be that way. Node 5, analyze calendar and generate report. So here we're gonna be using an AI agent node. Boom. Now this could be any model, so I'm gonna change it to agent. Doesn't have to be OpenAI. Could be Anthropic, could be Gemini, whatever. But yeah, OpenAI is the most powerful. After all, they're the first mover advantage, and they're absolutely crushing. That deal with Broadcom was crazy. 200 billion in a day. If you haven't made 200 billion in a day, you're falling behind, because Broadcom did. Man, I need to secure one of these OpenAI deals for Vectel. All right, so here's the agent, and now it's connecting it. Boom. This is like magical watching this. It's crazy. Really, the main value that a human gives is the idea, is the initiative, the creative vision, because all of the repetitive and manual tasks will be done by AI. And this is not some sci-fi 20 years from now. I'm talking like 6 to 12 months from now, guys. You really need to brace up. Okay, so let's see what model is using. GPT 4.0, that's fine, but I prefer 4.1. 4.1 is just amazing for AI agents. It's reliable, it's cheap. Yeah, use 4.1. Boom, let me save that. Okay, save. Now, this should generate the report from the event. So let's look at the prompt here. So as you can see, the N8n AI wrote both the system prompt and the user prompt, which is pretty amazing. And yeah, seems to be solid. I mean, JSON stringify is using. Let's close this. Sometimes it's better to close the AI assistant to have more space. We need to check the code node, and yeah, we do need to output the final events here. Okay, so actually I'm gonna do a bit of manual context engineering. I'm gonna do events, and then events after that. XML tags are really great at showing the agent where something ends and where something begins. I'm just gonna paste in the whole events JSON, and I think it can probably handle these objects inside. Yeah, I think it can handle that. So let's save that. And Let's see what happens. So let's rerun the whole workflow. Maybe I should tell it to make the report concise because it's running too long here, but let's see. All right, here's the HTML. It's actually pretty concise. Okay, use professional HTML formatting. I'll say, make the report concise. And just at the end, never hurts, save that. So I'm gonna screenshot our whole automation here. Boom, back to Vectel, paste it in. This is important to provide all the context. I'm also gonna screenshot the last N8n AI output. Say, here is the current state. What remains? It even suggested to add the temperature and max tokens. Let me check that if N8n did that. No. Let's follow Vectel's suggestion. 0.3 and 4,000 max tokens. Okay. Okay, that's actually, I didn't even expect to have it suggest that. That will also prevent it from being overly long, and the temperature will make it more deterministic, right? If you do like 0, it is completely deterministic. If you do a 1, it is very random and unpredictable. So that's a very, very impressive thing that it suggested that actually. Okay, note 6, send report via Gmail. So this is the final step basically. And yeah, so I'm gonna copy the prompt again for N8n AI, paste it in, boom. But as you can see, another issue is that you only get like limited amount of monthly credits. It's a pretty generous amount, to be honest. But yeah, you probably cannot use this as your main chatting agent, that's for sure. Okay, so send report email, boom, connected to the flow. There we go. And now it's configuring the details of that. Let's see if it automatically selects the email as well, the credentials. Because that's something that beginners used to struggle with in the past in N8n, selecting the right credentials and stuff. Let's see what happened. It did connect my email. Wow, that's pretty crazy. Okay, first workflow. Okay, so this we need to change. Like this we can manually select where we want to see that email, right? So I'm just gonna manually type in my email. No big deal. Subject. That's good. Custom date, and then message, generate a report, first JSON output. Yeah, that looks correct. I mean, this is very impressive, guys. N8n really did a great job. Yeah, this takes it to the next level. I think this is like, this will make N8n available to the masses. I think we're gonna see a renaissance of AI automations. But now the whole thing is ready, so what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna rerun it again. The whole workflow at once. Let me close this so we can make this a bit bigger. Right, we have the AI agent generating report. And I'm gonna load on my email. Okay, it's actually faster than I can even work here. We should be receiving an email, and there we go. I just received an email from myself, and I. Anyways, 15th of October, 2025, daily calendar report, and here is the report. And the problem is it's empty. It should put yesterday's events. What's the issue here? Let's investigate. Let's look at the agent. Did the agent mess up? Okay, whatever. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna use Vectel to help me make sense of this. I'm gonna do JSON, boom, JSON, help me understand what's in this JSON output. Does it correctly include all events from yesterday or not? Because here it's missing all calendar events. Attendees, yeah, this doesn't look good. This looks empty. What's in the JSON, the HTML report is completely empty. So let's investigate. We're gonna actually tell this to an N8n AI. Okay, Shift Enter doesn't work. That is a pet peeve of mine. N8n, please, Shift Enter should move you to the next line, not send the message. So yeah, anyways, I'm just gonna copy this part. That should be less than 1,000 characters. Yes, it is. Again, this is still in beta, so it's not perfect. And it's not optimized to be a chatbot. It's a workflow builder. But yeah, so the problem is our AI agent is not receiving the right data. So maybe that did get the data. Could be the code node is messed up. The issue was that JSON events was outputting object instead of actual data. JSON stringify, okay. Where did the Gmail, why did it remove the Gmail node? Okay, wait, that's crazy. Add back the Gmail node. Okay, well I've never seen that happen before, but okay. So do not run this probably on workflows that are already super complex, super important. This is just like vibe coding. This is really the best at creating going from zero to one, right? Creating something out of nothing. If you already have a complex workflow, I would be very careful. I would much rather do the setup where Vector tells you what to do, rather than letting the N8n AI mess up something that already works. But at building something from scratch, this is amazing, right? And let's rerun the whole workflow. So I'm gonna execute the workflow, boom. This is still very slow. Maybe we can use GPT 4.1 for this. Well, I mean 4.1 mini. 4.1 is maybe overkill even. Yeah, that is suspiciously slow. Okay, well, invalid email address. How is that even possible? Oh, it overrode that, of course. Okay, let's execute just this step. And let's see if this is correct or not. Okay, so new email came in. Look at this. Daily calendar report, same title. But we have things. Total events, 16. Average duration, 3 hours. Yeah, this is correct. I do track my time every 15 minutes, by the way. So we will have to blur some of this because these are private events. But yeah, it sent me a detailed analysis of my calendar. It's pretty OP actually, not gonna lie. And then it gives you duration, attendees, what type it is, if it's a meeting, personal. Wow. Analysis of every single event in the calendar. This is pretty damn good, guys. This is pretty damn good. And we built this in not that much time, right? We did it node by node, so I could explain everything. And yeah, this is only the second agent. Now let's move on to the most powerful and most complex agent of the three. And actually, this one, I'm gonna try to one-shot it. This will really push the N8n workflow builder to its limit. So I have a prompt. Hopefully this doesn't go beyond 1000 characters. It does. This is 1003 characters. Okay, we can trim it. Boom, let's save one character here, remove the dot, 1000 characters, there we go. Let's see. Still we reach the limit. What? That makes no sense. Unless this site is incorrect, which I would be very surprised because I've been using this site for years. How is this? Is this counting like some hidden system prompt? Policy check. Okay, this is... Okay, it's not counting correctly. Okay, I'm gonna delete some details. Boom, let's try again. There we go. Yeah, they really need to remove that limit, okay? At least make it 4,000, like 1,000 is too low. But again, it's in beta, so I think N8n is probably gonna watch this and listen to my feedback. Hopefully, if someone from N8n is watching, I just wanna say this is amazing. Even though I was critical at times, it's like very impressive beta version. And this will definitely put N8n in a league of its own. This is not like AgentKit, Make.com, Zapier are not even comparable now. So this agent, basically what it does is it's a long into short form factory. So it takes a latest video from my YouTube or any YouTube channel, and it will create and publish multiple shorts with A/B testing. And honestly, I'm not sure if it can build that. Look at that. Wow. We have like 25 nodes here. This is crazy. I really don't know if N8n is going to nail that in a single thing, in a single execution. But man, even if it can get us 80% of the way there, like, this is still completely revolutionary, right? This doesn't have to do every single thing. It just has to save you time for it to be useful. Wow, there it is. Guys, this is like a 1 hour build. I don't think you understand what you're looking at right now. Just assembling that would have taken like 20-30 minutes if you're an experienced N8n flowgrammer. If you don't know what you're doing, this could have taken you hours. But now you just describe the automation you want to build in plain English and you let the N8n AI cook. I really don't know what to say. This is crazy. In some ways, this feels like, being vindicated or being correct when I was preaching about AI agents in 2023 when nobody cared. Now we're seeing things actually work. We're seeing the revolution finally happen. And still most people aren't paying attention. So yeah, some people you will just never wake them up. But hopefully if you're watching all the way here, you do understand that the future is here and there's no time to waste. Okay, so we have some steps, and this is really cool. I guess we haven't done this before. When N8n AI cannot do something like, get API key or log into your account, it will tell you the steps to do, right? So this is like the agent plus human. This is the human in the loop. A lot of people think the future is either fully human, you know, the Luddites, the people who are anti-AI, or like the super evangelical, like AGI in 6 months dummies. They think that humans are useless. This is not the case, guys. Minimum the next 5 to 7 years, it's going to be human plus AI. Humans and agents working together. Humans will be driving the ideas and driving the vision, the taste. Agents will be doing all the manual work, such as clicking and dragging nodes and, you know, establishing all that, which is what you just saw N8n AI do in like 90 seconds. And then we just have to do the stuff we cannot do, you know. But look, this is already a very solid outline. And the best part is, if you want to change anything, you can just prompt your way into existence, right? Now, I'm running out of time, so I do have to wrap up here. But guys, hopefully you see the potential of this. This is crazy. N8n this is the biggest N8n update. I know I've said this like 3 times, but like N8n AI, the workflow builder it's the next era. It really is a 2.0 era of N8n. And like, the difference is that maybe in the past you're like, this process doesn't really waste that much time in our business, you know. Maybe automating it would save like a couple minutes a week. It's not really worth it, me spending an hour, 2 hours inside of N8n building an automation. Well, guess what? Now it isn't an hour or 2 hours inside of N8n. Now it's like 5 to 10 minutes. So now it will pay off for individuals and businesses to automate all of the inefficiencies in their business. Doesn't matter how small it is. If it only saves you 2 minutes a month, guess what? You can just have 1 or 2 prompts into N8n AI and you can have a whole workflow in those 2 minutes. Now, the workflow builder is insane, but to build truly powerful AI agents, you need to master the code node. This is the most powerful node inside of all of N8n by far. But most people never learn about it because they think they have to be a professional developer, which couldn't be further from the truth. Let me prove it to you. Okay, so what even is the N8n code node? Well, it is a specific node inside of N8n that you can insert into any workflow that you have. Let me show you. So when you go to top right and click on plus to add a new node, just type in code and there it is. This is what the code node looks like. Now, there's 2 types of the code node, JavaScript and Python, which, as you've guessed, let you run different programming language. So let's say we go with JavaScript now. N8n will automatically open the node as if you clicked on it, and it will also give you some pre-written code, which I'm going to explain how it works in a bit. Now you might be thinking, okay, David, when do you use the code node, right? Because N8n already has a lot of logic and math and conditionals. Well, sometimes you need to do something unique, something very specific that maybe there isn't any pre-made node in N8n. That's exactly when you need the code node. The code node lets you write custom instructions using JavaScript or Python. And don't worry, you really don't need to be a programmer to use it. I'll show you how you can use AI to write all of the code for us. And I'm not just saying that, I'm literally building a startup myself with the help of AI. I started Vectel when I wasn't a good developer at all. And I certainly didn't know anything about full stack web development. The point is, if AI can help me build an app used by over 60,000 people, it can help you build a simple agent in N8n. Alright, so even though you don't have to understand JavaScript or Python, it is good to understand the input and output of the data, how it is processed in the code node. So every single code node in N8n follows this basic pattern. And we can actually see this if we look at the predefined code that N8n gives us. This part, input.all, includes everything else that comes into this node. So obviously right now, this is a standalone node. Nothing comes in or nothing goes out. But usually you have it inside of a larger workflow, right? So when you want to access the data that is coming inside of the code node, you would use $input.all. And all we have to do is just save that into a variable such as named items or data or incoming data, whatever you want. Or if you want a single item and you don't want the whole array, you can access that with $input.item.json. If this is still confusing for you, let me break it down even more. In N8n, input.item.json gets the current item's data. Input.all gets all the items from the previous node. And then to send the data to the next node, such as in this example, we would send it here, we will use a simple return statement. So if you know something about programming, this is basically a function, right? It gets some data, it does something with the data, and then it returns part of the data after it was fully processed to the next node so that your N8n automation can continue working. And this is what the syntax for that looks like. Return, curly brackets, JSON colon, another curly bracket, your, and then the data as the variable. Oh, and by the way, double slash, these are just comments inside of JavaScript. In Python, that's hashtag, and that's simple notes to make it easier for humans to read. So if you are getting into programming or you're new to writing code, it is good practice to always add comments, especially to the most complicated parts of the code. But it gets better because the code node is a lot more powerful than you think. In fact, N8n gives us a lot of predefined tools and functions and methods that can simplify working with the code node. So let's look at the most useful of these. First one is this.helpers.http request. This allows you to make API calls to external services inside of the code node. And by the way, you can find all of these just by typing $. So we go back into N8n, we open up the code node, boom, $, you can see these suggestions, right? So N8n proactively shows you what are the pre-built methods or variables that you can use to do even more things even easier. The second one is this helpers HTTP request with authentication. So this makes an API call that utilizes the safe credentials you have in N8n. That could be like a Google Drive or Telegram, whatever you have. It can use those credentials to make an HTTP request. The third one and fourth one we already talked about, so we can skip past through them. But the fifth one is interesting because it lets you get all the data from a specific previous node. So unlike number 3, input.all, this is from the incoming node, right? So the node that's right before the code node. Well, let's say there is like node all the way at the start of your automation that you want to access. Well, you would just do $, name of that node, .all. And that's how you access the data from a node that's not the one before the code node. Next, $JSON is another super useful thing to know. This is a quick way to access the current items data. $now gets the current date and time, and you can use this in prompts as well. So for example, when you have, let's open up an AI agent in N8n, boom, and you're gonna add a system prompt here. If you switch to expression, you can say is, and then double curly brackets, and you can see that there is some suggested things. And you can do like if empty JSON, but you can do now, and the result would be the datetime object being passed into the system prompt of the AI agent. And it works the same inside of the code node. So you could do something like constant current date equals $now. I don't know if it's best JavaScript practices. Personally, I'm more of a Python developer myself. Next, today, same thing, but without the all the time, Then $sign workflow. This gets information about the current workflow, right? So such as this one is named the code node. So maybe that, you could get the author, the ID, whatever, a bunch of other stuff. Execution, that's info about the current execution. So if you want to have the code node work with that in real time, I mean, this is getting pretty advanced, but N8n has it if you need it. And then $env accesses the current environment variables. So these are just some of the built-in helpers and methods that N8n gives us so that we can do even more with the code node. Now here's an example of a very simple code node that does multiple things and utilizes some of these helpers, right? So first we define a new variable named data and we put in the first current item. Next we define another variable and it's going to be an array or a list of items. And in there we're going to save all of the items from the incoming node. Then we define a third variable named previous data. And here we're going to use the syntax from number 5, actually number 6, because we use that first method, but we get data from a specific node. This time is named HTTP request. Could be any node that is before the code node in the workflow, right? So maybe you have like a bunch of other nodes here. You want to access a specific one. Just put in the name. That's it. Just the name. And then that first, and then that JSON. So we have 3 variables, and then we're going to make a simple API call. So we await this.helpers.http request with the get method. So these are the headers of the request, and then the URL. So obviously this is an example URL, and here's how we get the time. All right, so let's get practical. What are some situations when it makes sense to use the code node? Well, let me give you 4 specific examples that you can start applying in your N8n automations today. Number 1 is grouping orders. So here's what that code might look like, and feel free to take a screenshot, put it into ChatGPT and adopt it for your own automation. But basically, let's say you have a large amount of data, right? Such as 1,000 orders. Could be also like a couple hundreds lists or different strings, different names. Basically, a lot of data that is structured in a different way. That would be a nightmare to do with the standard set node or the standard filter nodes in N8n. So what this code does, it groups the orders together by the customer's name, and then calculates the total spending for each person. So even though you might send 1,000 orders of unstructured data into this, or it is structured but in a chaotic way, not really human readable, even like 10, 15 lines of code can return beautiful, simple sentence such as John spent $45, Sarah spent $120. And this you can maybe insert into the system prompt of an AI agent. Now, to kind of generalize this, the first situation where you would use the code node is when you want to process a large amount of data at once in your N8n automations. Because the regular nodes can group or calculate, but they cannot do it both at once. And especially if you have a lot of data, it can be very chaotic, adding a bunch of different nodes into your N8n workflow, where all that it takes is just adding a single code node that can do it all. So this is why when you see, some of these content creators show you like these 50 nodes and like this ultimate AI agent, blah, blah, blah. A lot of the times they're just scared to write a single line of code and they don't know nothing about code, nothing about computer science. They are scared of the terminal, and those 50 nodes maybe could be 7 nodes, but there would be 1 or 2 code nodes in there. But hey, most people are not willing to learn and they're scared of code. And by the way, later I'll show you when not to use a code node, because N8n has a lot of friendly and pre-built nodes that are beginner friendly and that simplify the whole process of designing systems. So even though ignoring the code node is very bad, using it everywhere where it doesn't need to be used is also as bad. So at the end of this video, I'll show you when not to use the code node. All right, second practical actionable example when a code node is great is when there is an N8n node, such as the WordPress node, right? It exists. It is pre-built inside of N8n, but it cannot do some specific thing. So what this code does inside of this node is it uploads data to your WordPress website. So WordPress, even though it's kind of an old technology, it's still powering hundreds of millions, probably billions of websites today. So this is one of the most commonly used nodes inside of N8n. However, it doesn't support media upload. It can only handle text content like posts and pages. But luckily, since N8n has the code node, we can have these 12 lines of JavaScript, which of course I got AI to write this, to do that for us. So something that would have stopped the vast majority of people who built N8n workflows, we can do because we are not scared of the code node. Another practical example is utilizing the full advantage of an API when the N8n version, so here we're using Stripe, has some limited filtering, which to be honest, it always has limited filtering to make it simpler for people to build with it. Luckily, the code node doesn't have this limitation because in code you can build actually anything. So here we do an HTTP request with these headers, and for the auth, we want the username, boom, with the API key and the password. And then here we get the exact status, we get a plan, and then we set a hard limit of 100. So what this code does is that it searches your Stripe for specific subscriptions. So let's say you want to find people that are both active and on a premium plan, but only get 100 results. And maybe then you want to analyze their behaviors or average order value or the churn. There's a lot of situations in which you might need this data. So why do we need a code node here? Well, the built-in Stripe node can't search by custom fields, right? It's quite limited, as you can see. And it cannot combine multiple filters, such as both active or both premium. And again, this is not just the issue with the Stripe node. A lot of different N8n nodes are simplified for non-developers, which makes it easier to work with them, but it limits us if we want to build more powerful automations and AI agents. But the code node lets you search with multiple specific conditions at once, which the regular node doesn't support. Now there's one more useful situation in which you need to use the code node, which is extracting and parsing nested JSON data from API responses. So the issue is that the built-in nodes, such as the edit fields node, they cannot dig deep into nested data structures like JSON. But the code node lets you navigate multiple layers and search inside of complex arrays for the exact values and data that you're looking for. And here is a very simple example. Again, 9 lines of code. So there's a myth that your code nodes need to be hundreds of lines to be useful. That's not the case. Usually the code node is below 50 lines and it can still be very, very useful. So again, you don't need a PhD in computer science. Like all of this can be written by ChatGPT. So let me show you how simple this is. Just open up ChatGPT and describe what you want to build. Browse the web to understand how the N8n code node works. I'm going to do instant for this one. Boom. And then I'm going to switch to thinking for the code because we want a more powerful model for the code. And we're going to do Shopify orders, right? So the input data looks like this. And the scenario, find orders where someone bought a large blue t-shirt. Pretty simple. And this is actually very applicable right now because there's going to be a lot of vibe-coded apps. Lovable just released their Shopify integration. So if you learn a bit of N8n and if you learn how to use the code node, you'll be able to benefit of this new surge of Shopify stores that have like completely vibe-coded front end, completely vibe-coded back end, lots of bugs, lots of technical debt. If you can come in and if you know N8n well, and if you know the code node well, you can fix a lot of that stuff and you can charge a lot of money fixing these vibe-coded Shopify stores, right? So This is actually a very timely example. And boom, ChatGPT thought for 4 seconds. And here is the N8n node. And you can see that this is like probably like, what, 40 lines, a bit more JavaScript. So first I told it to browse the web to research the structure of the N8n node, right? To understand how it works and the input data, output data, the stuff I already explained basically. So again, let me show you from scratch. Boom, code node. We'll use JavaScript because that's what ChatGPT wrote, but you can tell it to do Python. 40 lines of code. As I said, usually it's below 50. You can do like basically anything below 100 lines. And I mean, Karpathy wrote like a whole GPT in less than 100 lines of code in Python. So yeah, if your code is 300 lines for some like data cleaning, you should probably delegate that to ChatGPT. Is what I'm gonna say. Anyways, you get the point, right? So we've gotten the mode is run once for all items, or run once for each item. You should probably tell this to the AI, right? So it knows which mode the code node will be in. But as you can see, ChatGPT left out some comments for us, so we know like, okay, this is a helper. Boom, quick exit on product title if you want to constrain to t-shirt only. Then we inspect the properties of the input data. We check the variant title. So there is the core math. And then we return the output, which is formatted here. So items.filter and some JavaScript for how we do the matching and filtering. So as I said, I cannot code in JavaScript myself without AI. And I've built N8n automations that use code node, no problem. Why? Because you can just ask ChatGPT or Claude to do that for you. It really is that simple. And as I said, you do not have to be a developer to use the code node in N8n. All right, so N8n has actually a lot of hidden gems. And N8n, what kind of N8n is simplifying programming, right? So all of these workflows, they've been possible for many years, well over a decade, right? Like you could build like Stripe automation or Google Calendar automations, all of these things, you could build them for many, many years now. That's not what N8n allowed. What N8n did is just, it made it a lot simpler. It made it visual, it made it drag and drop. And that is mainly thanks to these pre-built nodes. So here are some examples when not to use the code node. Simple if-else. Why? N8n has an if-else node. So you might use this when you need to split the workflow into two paths, true or false based on a certain condition. And, some data comes in. Let's say if the data includes a positive integer, it's true. If data is false and, the customer is broke and has negative bank balance, it is false, right? For example. Another example is the edit fields node. So this one can be used to rename fields, adding new fields, or removing fields. And you can think of fields as properties in your data, like name, email, price, or date. A good way to visualize this is the different column headers inside of a spreadsheet. Those are the fields, and the edit fields node can simply edit them. Another situation where it doesn't make sense to use the code node is simple filtering. So thanks to the filter node, you can keep only items that meet certain criteria, such as if the price is over 100 or if status is active. Or maybe you have a Google form for hiring like I do, and you want to filter out people who, are hardworking or something like that. Or maybe people who only have like above 2 years of experience, right? You could do that with a filter node easy. Next up is the merge node. So this can combine data from different sources, right? Let's say you have 2 AI agents above each other that run in parallel and they output like a conclusion, and you want to merge this into a single email report. That's where you would use the pre-built merge node. No need for a custom code node, easily solvable. Next up, aggregate. So this is similar to the merge node, but a bit more versatile. The aggregate node in N8n can be used for calculating or grouping multiple items into a single item. So for example, you can group 100 sales recordings by region and calculate the total revenue per region to create a summary report. Next up is the sort node. So maybe you have a list of customers and you just want to make them from the youngest to oldest, or alphabetical order, whatever. You just want to sort the list or the array in some way. Well, the N8n sort node does just that. It puts the items in order, or it can also shuffle them randomly to make them unordered. Now, split out is basically the opposite of aggregate. Separates a single item that contains a list into multiple individual items for processing, right? So could be a list of the orders from the last month, and you just want to make sure that you prioritize the oldest ones, or you group it into weeks, whatever you want to do, right? There's infinite ways where you might use the split out node without using the code node. Now, the HTTP request, this is another super powerful node inside of N8n that you absolutely should learn how to use, and that unfortunately most people just skip because when they hear HTTP, they're like, WTF, they're scared. It's like hearing terminal. But HTTP is like, that's how the internet works. So learning how HTTP requests get made, how to send them, how to receive them, how to process them, this really unlocks many different doors, especially if you're building N8n agents. So this abstracts away the code. So you can make HTTP requests without writing any code, right? So you can make API calls to external services. You can do get, post, put, delete requests, all with this one single node inside of N8n. And you can even set the custom headers with this. Again, no need for a code node here. This HTTP request node is very powerful. It's one of the most powerful nodes in N8n, to be honest. I'm gonna make a whole dedicated video on that. Let me know if you'd like to see that. Anyways, moving on, date and time. This is a very hidden node that a lot of people don't even know it exists in N8n. But anytime you're working with dates, formatting, adding, subtracting hours, calculating the time between two dates, you can use the date and time here. I think it's built on top of the Python datetime module. Don't quote me on that. I haven't. We can probably check it out actually. Since N8n is open source, we can honestly just quickly check that. Datetime. Okay, so here it is. Package, nodes, base, nodes, datetime. Let's look at it. Okay, so it's TypeScript, so it's not Python. Okay, I mean, we can look at the division of languages right here. Oh yeah, so N8n is basically almost all TypeScript. All right, well, that's good to know. Anyways, that's a little side quest. Another situation in which you should not use the code node is waiting. When you need to add a simple timeout, simple delay, N8n literally has a wait node. So again, you want to pause the workflow for a specific time interval, or you want to wait until like a webhook returns some data. Just use the wait node. It's a lot simpler. Now, perhaps the most common mistake is doing simple loops, right? Loop over items is a great node, great versatile node inside of N8n. And people think that you need to start doing code if you need to do for loops, while loops, stuff like that. Not true at all. N8n has this great loop over items node that can go over a list, let's say, of 10 things and do specific actions for each thing. So yeah, that's it. The code node, by far the most powerful node inside of N8n. A lot of people are scared of it for no reason. Just start using it. Use ChatGPT to write the code for you. Tell it to add comments so that you understand what the code node does. And just like that, you can build more powerful AI agents and automations than 99% of people using N8n. Now, theory is one thing, but building useful AI agents is another. And a lot of people get stuck on not knowing what to build. So here are 5 AI agents that all of you should have. All right, so the first AI agent that everyone must build is a simple accountant. So instead of paying an accountant $2,000, $3,000, this AI agent should do most of the things that normally you would outsource to a human accountant. So let's jump into N8n. And the first step is to define a trigger. There are literally thousands of different integrations inside of N8n, so just pick whatever you want. I'm going with Telegram and I'm going to do on message. And here we have to select the credentials. So if you're doing this for the first time, you will not have anything in here. So click on create new credential. Now the beauty of N8n is that no matter what trigger you use, again, WhatsApp, Discord, Gmail, Microsoft Teams, whatever you select, they give you the docs right here. So if you open the docs, you can actually see what you need, right? For Telegram, we need a Telegram bot. If you don't have the link, it's right here. And I can link it below the video as well. So you need to start the chat with the bot father, which is the main way to create bots on Telegram. So what we need to do is type in /new bot, and we need to call it something. I'm going to name this guy N8n accountant. And now we need to give it a username. This needs to be unique. So I'm going to do N8n David accountant, and it needs to end with bot. Okay, so that's important. And there it is. This is the token we need. So just click on that, switch back into N8n and paste it in. Save, and now a quick test should run. And we should see a green, there it is, connection tested successfully. So once you know this, you know that your trigger works. And we can actually test this step. So on the left, click on test step. So if I switch to Telegram and I open the chat with my N8n accountant, boom, there it is. So the first message is /start. And if we scroll down, we see the text is /start. So now N8n can successfully get messages from our Telegram, which is great. And by the way, this accountant or expense tracker is just one of 5 different AI agents I'll show you how to build in this video. So stay tuned. The next thing we need to do is connect the actual AI agent to the trigger. So type in AI agent and click on that. And a very good habit you should do inside of N8n is save. So make sure to save after each major change you do. Otherwise, you might lose your progress. All right, so to make our AI agent work, we need to give it an AI model. So click on this plus below chat model, and we can use, Anthropic, we can use Gemini models, we can use anything. I'm going to go with OpenAI. Now, before we connect the API key, let's just choose which AI model to use, right? I think GPT 4.1 is one of the best for AI agents right now. It's what I use for, my builds, my startup. So just select GPT 4.1. And next, we need to select an OpenAI credential. Again, if this is your first time, click on Create New Credential. And as you can see, N8n literally tells us what to do. So even if you're a non-technical person, you don't have to be a programmer to interact with API keys. This is one of the biggest misconceptions that I see. People think they need to be technical. People think they need to be a senior developer to make this happen. No, it's like middle of 2025. Guys, there are tools like N8n that make it super easy to build AI agents. So just follow the steps. You need to log into your OpenAI account and they give us the link. So open the OpenAI platform and log in. As you can see in the top right, I'm already logged in. If you are not logged in, use the same account as you use for ChatGPT. Super easy, takes 10 seconds to log in. Next, they tell us to go to the API keys page. So when you're in platform.openai.com, click on Dashboard, and on the left, click on API keys. And here you can see all of your API keys. And again, if this is your first time, don't panic. It's fine if you don't have any API keys. Just click on Create New Secret Key in the top right and name it N8n Accountant or whatever you want. Create key, copy, let's go back to N8n and paste it into the API key field. Save, and there it is. Again, connection tested successfully. If this is not successful, what you might need to do is you might need to add your credit card into the billing if you never used OpenAI API. But once you do that, once you charge up like a few dollars, this should be green. Okay, so now we have given our AI agent the brain, which is the AI model, right? So it can use GPT 4.1 or any other OpenAI model we select. Obviously, they have dozens of different models, but I think GPT 4.1 is going to be more than sufficient. Okay, so next up, we need to give the AI agent some instructions, also known as the system prompt. So double click on that. And for the user prompt, select Define Below. And here we need to drag in the message. So remember last time we tested it, it was just the default /start from Telegram. But, we can probably retest this. If we save and we delete this test, so this trash icon deletes the last test, we do test workflow, it's waiting for a message. I can say testing, boom. Now this should be the message, right? Testing. Hello, it looks like, okay, so now you see the AI agent actually responded. It looks like you're testing, how can I assist you? Beautiful. So now this is green, which means the AI agent knows what we sent. It goes to the agent. So that's really good. But now we also need to give it a system prompt. So underneath options, click on add option, system message. Here we can define an actual system prompt where we define the behavior, how we want our AI agent to behave. So I already prepared a pretty solid one, which I'm going to paste in here. By the way, feel free to pause and read through this, or if you just want the full pre-built AI agents, all of those are in the new society. So if you go into Classroom and click on templates and presets, underneath pre-built automations, you can access the 5 AI agents everyone needs, aka fully pre-built agents from this video. Anyways, let's go back to N8n and let's save. So we've given the AI agent the system prompt, so let's make sure we save it. And now actually we can test it again. So let's kill this test and let's do test workflow. And now, since it's properly categorizing our expenses, if we send something like, croissant, I don't know, $2.50, corner of my street. Okay, so this should properly categorize this expense as a personal expense. Obviously, it's not a business expense. So now, if we open this, we can see the output is a categorization of this expense. So date is today's date, personal or business, it's personal expense, description croissant, and where it was purchased, amount in USD, type food. Okay, so it properly categorized it, but the next step is to actually give it the Google Sheets tool so that it can write it into our Google Sheets as a proper accountant would. But before we do that, let's actually give the AI agent a memory. That way it can remember longer conversations than just the last message. So underneath memory, click on plus and click on simple memory. Session ID, select define below, and into key, we just need to drag in the chat ID. So drag in the ID, boom, there it is. And context window length, this is how many past interactions the model, the AI agent will receive as context. 5 is enough. If you want more, you can do 10 or 15, but 5 should be more than enough. So if we save this, the AI agent will now be aware of, our past interactions. So maybe you sent a few messages, or maybe there's a purchase that's relevant that you made in the morning, and then you do a purchase in the evening. Like for example, if you go to see movies in the morning, which doesn't make sense, but stay with me, and in the evening you buy popcorn, it can probably link those two together, right? If it has access to 5 past messages. So that's why adding the simple memory is important, and it makes your AI agents better than the people that skip this step. Okay, but now comes the important part, and this is giving the AI agent tools. That way it's much more useful than ChatGPT, because ChatGPT cannot write into your Google Sheets. N8n agents certainly can. So click on plus underneath tool, type in Google Sheets tool, select that. And again, at the top, click on create new credential. And there is a new button that pops up when you fill this out, sign in with Google. So click on that. This opens up a new pop-up. So again, select the same account we're using. And there it is, connection successful. So this window should close automatically, or we can close it. And again, you need to see this green check mark, account connected. So now our AI agent can use Google Sheets. So let's close it and click out of it and save. Remember to always save. But as you can see, the Google Sheets tool is still red, and that's because we haven't selected which sheet, which document it should reference. So first off, select operation and append row, because we're tracking our expenses. So we need the AI agent to be able to add new rows into our Google Sheet. And I've created this empty sheet, literally nothing in it. I just named it N8n Accountant. So what remains is actually connecting this into the tool. So underneath document, click on choose, and there it is, N8n Accountant. So it will show the most recent ones. If you don't see it there, just search for it. And underneath sheet, this is actually the bottom thing, right? So just select sheet 1, because literally I just created it. There's only one sheet. All right, so now we have a small error. It doesn't see any columns because the sheet is empty. So it says no columns found in Google Sheet. So we want the AI to fill these out, but first we need to define the headers. So for this automation, I want date, personal or business. I want a description of the transaction. I want the amount in USD, and I want the type. You know, is it a food expense? Is it a business expense? Is it a travel? Whatever. So this is going to be my header. So let's make this bold. Can increase the size as well. And now if we go back into N8n, we should be able to refresh this. So refresh to see updated fields, reload. And there you go. You can see all of these different headers, date, personal. Okay, everything that we just defined is here. And all you need to do here is click this magic button on the right. This just lets the AI model define it. So click this for all of the fields. And now, once we have this defined by the model, the AI knows what to fill in here based on the system prompt we gave it earlier. Okay, so let's click on save. And now, fingers crossed, we should have everything ready to test it out. So let's close this. I'm going to click on test workflow again. So now it's waiting for a trigger event. Let's go to Telegram and let's do a different transaction. Let's do AI consulting. We've spent $400 on this. I'm going to say expert from New Society. Let's say we've paid one of the people in New Society for AI consulting. And I'm going to say 60 minutes. Okay, send. So we gave it more info than last time. It goes into AI agent, which quickly processes it because GPT 4.1 is so quick. And Google Sheets. Okay, so no errors. This looks good. Let's check our sheet to see if it's there. There it is. Date, today's date, correct. It is business expense, AI consulting, all the details here, amount 400 USD, and type service. Amazing. So the AI agent did everything we asked for. So now, if you actually followed what I did, you should have your own AI agent accountant that you can message from Telegram, and I will automatically track your expenses into a Google Sheet, just like a professional human accountant would. But to take it to the next level, we also want the AI agent to give us the response in Telegram, because let's say you're on your phone, you're on a bike or whatever, and you just purchase something from your local store, grocery store, right? You don't want to be checking Google Sheets to see if it's there. So we're going to add an output to the AI agent. It's going to be Telegram as well. And this is going to be a quick summary of what it did, confirming that it actually did the action. So here, let's look for send a text message, send a text message. And this time we don't actually need to select the credentials because we already did. So just select the same credentials you set up. This is the beauty of N8n. It actually saves your credentials so that each time you build AI agents, it only gets easier. That's why I'm urging you to push through the friction at the start. Do these connections, connect your OpenAI API, connect your Telegram, connect your Google. You only have to do it once, then it's saved inside of N8n and it remembers those credentials. So that if you build agent number 4, 5, 6, 20, it's much, much faster and easier than building your first 1 or 2 agents. Anyways, let's make this working. So chat ID, once again, let's scroll down, chat ID right here, drag it in here. Boom, make sure it's green. Text, this should be the response from the AI agent. So on the left, scroll down, find the AI agent and drag in the output. And that should be it. So let's test this step. Boom, if we switch to Telegram, we should see a nice message of what happened. Date, personal business. Okay, so anytime we do a test, let's do a complete test, okay? So I'm going to delete this previous workflow test and I'm going to click on test workflow once again. And let's give it a different message. I'm going to say dark chocolate, local grocery store. And I'm going to give it in different currency to see if it converts. I'm going to say it costed 30 AED. Hit enter. So let's see. Okay, AI agent working, it's running into Google Sheets, and we should see, so a few seconds later, and there it is. So it converted into USD, amazing. The expense has been added to your sheet with the amount converted, roughly 8.17 USD. Really, really nice. So if we check our sheet, there it is. It tracked our expense. So no matter where you are, you can just type in into Telegram, into WhatsApp, whatever trigger you use, whatever trigger you choose, and you will have an AI accountant nicely tracking all of your expenses into an organized Google Sheet. Oh, and by the way, if you want to know how to actually sell these AI agents to real businesses and make some money with this, later in the video, I'll explain step by step exactly how to do that. So let's click on create workflow and let's build the second one. Now, since a lot of the steps are the same as the first agent, to save you some time, I'm just going to import the JSON and explain everything. So on the right, click on three dots, import from file, and select the JSON of the AI agent to import. Again, all of the AI agents from this video, as well as from all of my past videos, are available in the new society. So if you want access to all of my AI agents to just copy paste them into your own life, make sure to join the new society, and you can get all of the JSON files in here in the classroom. All right, let's go back to N8n, and this is what it will look like once you import the JSON. You will see the automation, however, you will have errors on the nodes, and that's because we need to connect them to the credentials. So first off, what does this AI agent do? Well, this is an email manager that autonomously cleans up and organizes your inbox. This is my favorite AI agent because it will save you 80 to 90% of the time that you spend on your emails. Why? Because it will open emails that are unimportant. It will read through every single email that comes in, first of all, and then those that are unimportant, it will leave them opened so that you only focus your time on the ones that are truly important. I have this exact AI agent running on all of my inboxes, and it saves me dozens of hours every month. So please, if there's one thing from this video, just take away this AI agent and deploy it into your own life. Trust me, you'll thank me later. All right, so let me explain what's going on here. So first off, we have the Gmail trigger. Make sure to connect this to the email that you want to be cleaned up. If you have multiple inboxes, just deploy this AI agent on all of them. I have it running on multiple inboxes and it saves so much time. It's amazing. So here, connect the credential, exact same steps as with the Google Sheets. Really, it's not that complicated. Mode, you can leave up to every minute. That just sets how often it checks your inbox. Event, make sure it's on message received, and enable simplify just for clarity. And make sure you have simplified enabled. So let's click on fast touch event to see if it works. Okay, so it fetched an email, and this is actually this email right here, which is the Hostinger verification code, which I received while I was logging into Hostinger. So now we know that the N8n trigger can successfully read our emails. Beautiful. The next step after the trigger is the AI agent. So let's double click on that. So in the user message, we give it the ID of the email, the subject line, as well as the snippet. And then in the system message, we explain how it should process the email. That the unimportant ones should be marked as read and that the important ones shouldn't be touched. And again, there's more instructions. All of that is in the JSON files in the new society. Okay, so the next part of every AI agent is obviously the AI model. So again, we're using OpenAI here. And if you have an error, all that means is that you need to select a credential. Just select the credential you used for the first AI agent. And for the model, make sure to select either 4.0 or 4.1. Don't use anything worse than that. You could use 4.1 mini. I guess 4.1 mini, if you really are cost, mindful, 4.1 mini would be good. Nano, I think it's too small of a model. I don't think it's intelligent enough. But 4.1 is also very cheap, so definitely go with that. Okay, let's save again. All right, so actually I think I can simplify this automation by deleting one of the tools, and we only need the mark as read tool. So let's double click on this. Select the email you want to be read. So whatever email is in the trigger, just make sure to match this. And underneath message ID, just drag in the ID from the Gmail right here. So let's test it out. We have the data right here. This is the Hostinger email. And actually, I'm going to mark it as unread. Mark as unread. And I'm going to pin the data in the first trigger so that we can test with it multiple times. I'm also going to save. And let's see if our AI agent can actually run this. So I'm going to test workflow. Okay, it goes into the AI agent. Boom, workflow is successfully. So let's see what the AI agent did. The email with subject, the login verification code is likely important as it's related to account security. Okay, no action will be taken. So it decided this email is important and it didn't mark it as read. And again, you can customize this for yourself. Maybe you would say, but David, I think this is not important. Well, all of that is customizable in the system message. Whatever you tell the AI agent to do in the system message, it will follow. So let's say for you, accounting emails, like emails with money or receipts and invoices are important. Or maybe for you, emails from your teacher if you're in school are important, or from your boss, right? All of that you can include in the system message. and the AI agent will adapt. This is the beauty of AI agents. They adapt to you specifically. So don't be like, okay, this email shouldn't be marked as important. Just describe it, improve your system prompt, learn how to write prompts, and keep refining the system message of your AI agent until you're happy with it. Once it works forever. So all that remains is just clicking save and activating it. And now every single email that comes into my inbox will be checked with this AI agent. So let me actually test this by sending myself a not important email. So let me jump into Vectel and say, I need you to draft up an email that is objectively not important. Just something that a friend might email me. Give me subject and body. Okay, so I'm just gonna use whatever Vectel told me. Okay, so I'm gonna use whatever Vectel wrote up, and I'm gonna send it to myself from another address. And let's see. So I sent the email. We should have it here any moment. Let's actually check what it is again. Hope you're having a great week. Just want to check in, blah, blah, blah. So something objectively unimportant. There it is. Quick catch up. Let's see. Let's switch into N8n. Executions. We should see, boom, executions. We should see the agent running. Email manager. Okay, so it ran. Wait, it checks every minute. So maybe it still haven't ran. Let's switch back to the workflow to see executions. Okay, so it's 44 now, so it didn't. Okay, there it is. Yeah, it runs every minute. So it checks every minute, and then it spotted there's a new email. So let's see what it does. Reload. Boom, there it is. It marked it as read. So this is what I mean. It will filter out the unimportant emails, mark them as read, so that you can only focus on the most important ones. And I've had this running on my main inboxes for the last few months. And trust me, guys, this will save you so many hours. So please, if you take away from this video just one thing, let it be this email manager. It will save you so much time. By the way, I am now in Europe for the summer. So if you want to meet me in person, make sure to follow me on Instagram and send me a message where you live. If a lot of people live in a certain city, I'll make my plans and go there. All right, so now let's build the third AI agent that everyone should have. So on the left, click on plus and workflow. And this one I call the calendar event reminder. And again, to save you some time, since a lot of these steps are repetitive, I'm gonna import it from the JSON. So click on these three dots, import from file, and there it is, calendar event reminder. Beautiful, let's save. So this AI agent is actually different in that instead of having a specific trigger like an app, it's a schedule trigger. So it runs every now and then. So let's double click on that. And in here, you can define the interval. So you can select days, minutes, hours, weeks, months. N8n is really customizable. Obviously, for simplicity, you can do day and one. So that way, every day it runs at midnight. Super self-explanatory, easy to understand, hopefully. Then AI agent, as always, we have the system prompt, we have the user message right here. And actually here we're not using any system prompt because it's so simple. All it needs to do is check the calendar, understand the schedule, and make a summary of today's events and send me an email. If you don't want an email, if you want a Telegram message or a WhatsApp message or a Discord message or a Slack message, you can do that. Just give it a tool for that, right? Let's say you want Slack, type in Slack, boom, Slack tool. And there are so many things like operations, send a message to, you define the channel, all of that stuff, right? So whatever you want to build with N8n, you absolutely can. Don't get limited by the examples I show in this video. Anyways, let's save it. And again, we need to give it the model. So just select the credentials that you already worked. For the model, select 4.1. GPT 4.1 right now is the best model for AI agents because it's so good at instruction following. And it has 1 million context window. And it is actually very cost efficient. So yeah, 4.1 is the go-to. If you need something cheaper, 4.1 mini. Okay, so we have two different tools here because first of all, it needs to check our calendar. And second of all, it needs to send us an email, which is a summary of the events for that day. So let's double click on the calendar. And here we need to set up the credential because we don't have it. So click on create new credential. And again, this is the same setup as before with Google Cloud Console. Okay, accept this, allow, and there is connection successful, account connected. So now it can get our events, right? Tool description is set automatically. This is for any tool you can, this is like a description for the AI agent. If it's not calling the tool correctly, you can set manually and you can describe what this tool does. This tool opens the user's Google Calendar and fetches all events for today. Okay, just give it a clear description. Resource event operation get many. This is important, get many. Calendar, select the calendar that you want. Because on Google Calendar, you have multiple different calendars, right? So just select the one that you actually want to be accessed with this AI agent. So obviously in Google Calendar, you can actually have multiple calendars showing, right? So just select the one you want the AI agent to analyze. Then limit, this is how many events it can get. Leave it at like 20, 30, 50, doesn't matter. After now, so this is important. This will get events from today, this moment, until 1 week from now. If you want maybe a summary of last 48 hours, you would do 1 minus, right? So 1 plus, 1 minus hours 48. But since we want this AI agent to give us what's coming, you know, your upcoming calls, events, all that stuff, just set it up like me. Now and then now plus 1 week. Okay, let's save that. And last but not least is the Gmail node. Let's double click on that. And again, this will just send us an email, which is a quick summary of the events between now and 1 week from now. So we have my email here set automatically. You don't need to set the description. Resource message. So what it should do, operation send to what email. You can actually set any email here. It doesn't have to be one you authenticated with. You can automate sending email to your mom if you want her to be updated on what you're doing in the calendar. Really, you can do anything with this. Subject defined by the model, email type text, a message defined by the model. So we let the AI agent define these things, and that should be good. So let's click on save and let's do test workflow. So it triggered, AI agent checked my events, and then we should get an email any second now. Okay, let me refresh. Oh, there it is. So we just got a new email, summary of today's schedule. So let's click on that. All right, amazing. So as you can see, this email contains a summary of the events for today. So it is upload day. That's why I'm recording this video. So it reminds me that, you know, I have to upload a video, and then I have a vector call in about 1 hour with my developers. So yeah, this works exactly as we would expect. So yeah, this is yet another simple N8n agent that all of you should have, no matter what position or job you're doing. Okay, so now let me actually explain how to make money with building N8n, because it's not agency. That's, you know, that's not the model. So let's say you have a business, right? In this case, it's a simple coffee shop. The coffee shop does multiple things. They get bank transfers for their coffee, they pay cash for their machines, or they might get crypto. So in this example, what that might mean is that the owner of this coffee shop will have different problems, right? Which bank did I use to buy this machine? I need to make sure I add everything correctly so the taxes are in order. How much did I pay for those cups? A lot of like different accounting and tracking is needed for a coffee shop owner. So what that means is a pain point. A pain point you can solve. This is how you need to think. You cannot think about like, oh, what AI agent would be cool to build? You will not make money like that. Maybe you can close 1 or 2 clients, but if you want to make serious money in AI, you have to solve real problems with AI. People don't care about AI. They don't care about like what AI model you use to solve their problem, or that use N8n or make.com. They don't care. What they care about is their problems being solved. You know, do you save them time? Do you make them more money? Do you get them more customers, more leads? Do you automate some annoying process in their business? That's what they care about. So in this case, that's an example of a pain point. So you are not selling a general AI agent. Nobody wants that. Like even though AI is trending and it's popular, people don't want general solutions. This is the mindset you need to have. You are helping busy business owners track their expenses, no matter if it's cash, crypto, bank transfers. Again, this is just an example, but there's a problem. AI automation agency takes up a lot of time. This is like a popular business model over the last, year or two, but getting it up and running takes a lot of time and expertise. It's not as easy as, some gurus make it out to be. And how do I know that? Well, because I run the New Society, which is a community of over 500 people at the cutting edge of AI. And this is exactly how I know what works and what doesn't, because there's hundreds of people trying different business models and reporting on what works. For example, John sold an AI agent for $90,000, right? $90,000. And he was able to do that by building a specific solution. You need to build a problem-solving AI agent. So what you need to do is you need to build a problem-solving AI agent. A specific AI agent that actually solves a real problem that a business has, and then you can market it for that specific use case. This is the way people are making money with N8n. It's not by building some AI automation agency and trying to sell a generic thing to everybody. You will struggle a lot because people don't care. This is the mindset you need to have. Now, you might be thinking, but David, how do I know whether I should listen to you? There's like so much noise on YouTube, right? Well, first of all, I was one of the first people in the N8n niche. But second of all, I have an N8n Mac. Guys, why are you listening to somebody who doesn't have an N8n Mac? Come on. Anyways, now let me show you the 5th and final AI agent that all of you need to have. And this one I call the Daily News Agent. So as it says, it can do research on a specific topic and send it to you daily or even hourly. I mean, you can set it up as you want. So let's again import from file. And there it is, Daily News JSON. And again, all of this is available inside of the classroom in the New Society. Templates and presets right here. Pre-built automations, N8n, 5 AI agents everyone needs. So if you want the JSON files, they're there. Just join and get them. Okay, so We have the AI agent right here. Let's save. Okay, so as last time, there's a schedule trigger, right? Running every day, and this time at 8 a.m. You can put it at whatever hour you want. You know, obviously, there's all the different options inside of N8n. If you want your news at noon, just put it at noon. If you want it, you know, multiple times per day, you can set it to hours and have it run every 6 hours, for example. Okay, so that's that schedule trigger. AI agent. Again, we have the prompt that explains what it should do and how it should use the tools. And then we have the model. So this is something you should already know. Select the credential and select 4.1. You cannot really go wrong with GPT 4.1. If you want to save costs, select 4.1 mini. Okay, let's save. So now we have two different tools, right? We have a SERP API. So this is the web search, Google SERP API. So let's click on that. And here we can open the docs again. N8n will tell us exactly how to set it up. But really, you don't have to read through all of this. All you need to go is serpapi.com, register here, get the API key, paste it as a credential. Then make sure to save. And then Gmail, same issue, right? Inside of Gmail, again, select the credentials, whatever email you have, doesn't matter. And then whatever email you want the news to be sent to. So maybe you want to send them to one of your employees or your friend. Again, could be any email. This doesn't have to be your email. And set this up, set automatically, message, send, subject defined by the model, email type text, and message defined by the model. All that will be defined by the AI agent. So in this case, we're asking about info about artificial intelligence because that's what I care about, AI. So let's test the entire workflow. Click on test workflow. AI agent, okay, use SERP API, and there's an error. So I guess our API key didn't work. Invalid API key. Okay, so let's go to SERP API. Let's fix this. Okay, so in here, you need to select what plan you want. I'm going to go with the free plan, 100 searches a month. That's sufficient because we're doing one a day. So that's 30 a month. Quick maths. Click on subscribe. Okay, so it also wants me to verify my phone number. That way it knows I'm not botting. So let me do that real quick. Okay, so once you verify your phone number, you should see this. And you should be able to subscribe to the free plan. There it is. So we have the API key. Again, do not share this with anybody. Make sure to delete, or I'm going to make sure to delete mine before uploading this video, but treat your API keys as passwords, okay? I'm being serious, guys. A lot of you are being sloppy with your API keys and it will bite you in the, behind. Anyways, let's go back to N8n. And here, let's click on SERP account, create new credential, and paste an API key, save. Boom, connection tested successfully. So now we should no longer have an error. Let's save this and let's delete this entire test. And I'm going to be waiting for the email, right? So we need a summary of AI news. So let's test the workflow. AI agent is running. It should call the SERP API. Okay, it's calling it. No error this time. Amazing. It's calling it again. Cool, cool. It's getting more news. So it can call multiple tools multiple times, by the way. This is the beauty of N8n, how they set it up. Also, it depends on the prompt you tell it, right? If you tell it like search up 5 different terms, it will do that. Or if you wanted to like search up about OpenAI, Anthropic, XAI, Google, it will do separate tools like that. But once it gathers all the information, it should call the Gmail tool and send us a nice email right here with summarized everything. Okay, so workflow executed successfully. However, it didn't send us the email. Let's see what happened there. So it did the summary. However, it didn't send the email. Okay, so maybe let's adjust our system prompt, right? At the bottom, I'm going to say, make sure to always use the Gmail tool to send the user an email with a concise summary of the AI news. Never end your response without calling the Gmail tool. So this is how you tweak the prompts. Maybe, actually it's good that I ran into this error because you can see how I think and how I build these AI agents, right? So when something goes wrong, all you need to do is just adjust the system prompt if you don't like the behavior of the AI agent. So I'm going to do that. And actually, let's tell it to only do one search. I'm going to say only use the SERP API tool once. Do not call it multiple times, just to save time here for testing. Let's save that. Let's delete this and let's go again. So it called the SERP API, was very fast. It should process the news and send us an email now. We were very clear. Okay, there it is. It used the tool. So now if we go into our email inbox, there it is. We got an email from me because we're using the same account. Daily AI news update, May 13th, just today. Hello, here's a daily summary. And there it is. So major partnership, drive, blah, blah, blah. So since it only did one search, we only have one news. Obviously, if we told it to search the web 5 times, it can do that. But yeah, we got some AI news from today. So amazing. Now we know our daily news agent works. And obviously, you can make this for any field. AI, machine learning, robotics, doesn't matter what you're interested in, financial markets, maybe you want price updates on Bitcoin or stuff like that, you can set this up. And again, if you don't want an email, select Slack, select WhatsApp, select Discord. N8n has it all. This is the beauty of N8n. All of these integrations are so easy to set up. And once you set it up, you don't have to enter the credentials every time. So again, if you want to build something, just push through the friction. Really, I'm begging you, push through the friction. Build the first 1 or 2 agents. Everything after that gets so much easier. Now that we've built 5 AI agents, let's look at where the future of AI agents will be. And I believe that it's going to be in voice. That's right, voice agents are a massively growing market, and most people don't realize it yet. So let me show you how to build your own voice agent in N8n. So AI voice agents can do pretty much anything, whether it is attract you more leads, save time, manage your calendar, grow your business, or even automate your work. Plus, it's a massively growing market. I mean, look at this trends chart, right? I don't have to explain that this is a very, very good time to get into the voice AI agent game. If you still don't have a voice agent in your life or business, you're honestly missing out. So in this video, I'll show you how to build a voice AI agent from scratch, even if you are a complete beginner. Now, you have to realize that every single business needs voice agents. Or if you don't have a business, you could be one of the many people selling to the 350 million registered companies worldwide. Now, another reason to take voice agents seriously is that this is the next big modality in the AI game. When ChatGPT came out in 23, it was all about texting. Same with 24 and the first half of 2025. But the future is not texting. The future is voice, speaking, whether it is through Meta glasses, whether it is through phone, through headphones, doesn't matter. Voice is the modality of the future. And that's because talking is just way faster than typing. Most people type at like 40 words per minute, which is disgusting. For most people, speaking is like 3 times faster than typing. Also, people don't realize just how hyper-realistic voice agents have recently gotten. Over 95% of people cannot even tell if they're speaking to one of the cutting-edge voice models. But it's not just about the AI voice itself. You can even simulate ambient sounds and pauses, which makes it even more realistic. Plus, voice is just convenient, right? You can talk to it while you're in a car, walking, while you're cycling, or inside of a meeting. Plus, voice is going to be much bigger market than text, purely by the fact that there's billions of people in this world that aren't really literate when it comes to writing or texting, but they can speak, which means voice by default will be a bigger market. Just like smartphones are a bigger market than personal computers. But the best part is, voice agents are actually very easy to build. By the end of this video, if you actually pay attention, you will have your very first AI voice agent deployed and running in your life or business. And no, you don't have to be a programmer to do this. Alright, so let me show you the agent itself. And as I promised, it's very simple, right? We have the webhook trigger, we have the AI agent using OpenAI model. Then we have the tools. Obviously, you can customize this for whatever you want. I'll show you how to do that in a bit. And then we have a respond to webhook, which is literally the simplest node ever. First incoming item. This is what the agent returns. So yes, building voice agents is very simple. And yes, you can do it. Just pay attention, give me 20 minutes, and you will have your first voice agent in your life. Now, the voice agent looks something like this. So let me show you how this voice agent can sound.
Thanks for calling Sharp Look Barbershop, mister. Are you looking to book, change, or cancel an appointment, or ask a quick question?
Now, believe it or not, businesses are throwing money at voice agents like this. I mean, in just a few minutes, I was able to find multiple 4-figure listings on Upwork where people want AI voice system automation, voice AI agent, voice receptionist. Okay, so now let me show you how to build this agent inside of N8n from scratch. So the first thing you have to do is choose the trigger. We're going to use the webhook one, so type in webhook. There we go. Now, if this is your first time in N8n, you might be thinking, okay, David, this feels complicated. I don't know what to do. Calm down. The data on the left is what's coming in. In the middle, this is this node. This is how we process the data. And on the right, this is the output, right? This is how every single node inside of N8n looks. Once you realize that, you realize, okay, it's actually not that hard. So we need to change just a few things inside of this webhook node. First of all, we will need the production URL. This is what we will add later to our voice agent. But the main thing is changing the HTTP method to post. And the second thing you have to change is respond to using respond node webhook. This is going to be after the AI agent runs. And that should be it. So make sure to save in the top right. Inside of N8n, after making any changes, always click save. That way you don't lose your progress. Now, after the webhook, we need to feed the data into an AI agent. So type in AI agent. Boom. Now, this is the main part of our operation, right? This is the agent that decides what tools are being used, which model is being used, how we output the webhook. Anything you want to build, you can do it with this agent. So for the prompt, let's click on define below. And for the user message, we're just going to pass the transcription from the call. So that's going to be included in the webhook. Next up, we need to scroll all the way at the bottom and click on add option and add a system prompt, right? Because we want to have control over how our AI agent behaves. And the way we do that is with the system message. Now, if you click on expression, you can actually click this expand button to have a bit more space for this. And I already prepared the system prompt, so feel free to pause and copy it. But basically, this demo is going to be for a booking agent, right? So this could be used for a barbershop. This could be used for dental agency. I mean, any brick and mortar business can use this agent. So you can literally take it and resell it to actual companies. Now, one detail is the time zone, right? If you have all customers in the same time zone, such as a small country like Czech Republic, then it's fine doing it like so, where you define the time zone for everybody. But if your customers are worldwide, then make sure to tell the agent, please ask the user which time zone he's calling from, right? So that anything with time, such as booking or appointments, whatever, will be accurate in the user's time zone. But other than that, this prompt is actually very simple. So once you set up the agent, again, make sure to save, and we need to give it a model. That's the brain of the AI agent. Without a model, it cannot think. You can use OpenAI, you can use Anthropic, Google, whatever you prefer. I'm just going to use OpenAI because GPT 4.1 is perhaps the most reliable model for AI agents right now. Now, if this is your first time setting up an OpenAI model, you obviously have to pass your API key, which you can do in this credential right here. To get your API key, just go to platform.openai.com, log in with your ChatGPT account. On the left, click on API keys and then click on create new secret key. Very simple, takes 30 seconds. Okay, so back to N8n, we added the model. So now our AI agent is a chat model. So let's save that again. By the way, later in the video, I'll show you how to actually profit with voice AI agents, whether it is integrating them into your own business or selling it to other companies. So stay tuned for that. The next thing we need to add is a tool. So in this example, let's do Google Calendar. That's something that anyone uses and anybody can implement right now. The first step is selecting which account it should be connected with. I've shown that in dozens of other videos, so just watch any of these. It's not that complicated. Now, the important thing is the operation here. We need to change this to get many. Before it can make any changes to the calendar, you need to check where the empty slots are. So again, select the calendar you want it to use. And here's the fun part. For all of these, we can just click on let the model define. All of these will let the AI agent decide how to use these and how to fill these in. We don't have to fill these. Like, this is the beauty of building AI agents in 2025. It's way easier, way simpler than people think. So also make sure to rename it to get many. That way it's organized and we know what each tool does. Now we need a second tool, again, Google Calendar. And by the way, you can add way more tools than that. Each agent can have 10 plus tools until it starts getting confused. And then if it starts getting confused, guess what? We can add another AI agent as a sub agent. This is something that's new to N8n. So even if you need to add like 20 plus tools, where in the past that would be too much for a single agent, right? It would get confused, not sure which to call, when to call each tool. Now you can do sub agent that would be like managing all calendar tools, for example, right? Or like one agent that manages all email tools. And that agent has like 5 email tools and it's hyper specialized to just email operations. So that we can do with sub agents. But in this example, we don't even need to do that. And I don't want to make it harder on you. All we need to do is just use two different tools, get many, and then create event. So let's rename that calendar, create event. Again, choose the account to connect with. Under operation, make sure to leave it on create and select the target calendar. Now, just like before, we don't want to define these. We just want to let the model decide. So let's click on this and AI will decide these for us. And the same goes for the description and the summary. So again, click on this button, boom, boom, and the AI agent will fill these up without you having to tell it anything. Now, as you can see, our AI agents is starting to take shape. I told you, building AI agents is easier and faster than you think. If you can sit down for 60 minutes and commit to it, you will automate a single process for the rest of your life and save time, whereas everyone else who doesn't do it has a disadvantage. So building a few voice agents is one of the easiest way to get an unfair advantage over 99% of people. Now, to finish this up, we need to finish the webhook, right? So type in webhook, respond to webhook, there we go, and just leave it on first incoming item. And that's literally it. Just like that, our AI agent inside of N8n is complete. Okay, so now that our N8n agent is done, we need to integrate the voice agent with it, which actually is even simpler. All right, so for the voice agent, I decided to use retail. You can also use VAPI or any other alternative, but retail makes it super simple. So just click on try for free. And this is what we'll connect to our calendar agent right here to do the realistic human voice. So inside of retail, you can start without adding your payment. There's $10 for free. So on the top right, click on create agent, voice agent, click on single prompt agent and start from blank. Create. The first thing we need to do is choose the model. So you can use GPT-5 if you want maximum performance. If you want a bit faster, GPT-5 mini is also great. So you can do the fast tier, boom. Then we need to set the system prompt. So I prepared a demo prompt for a barber. Again, feel free to pause and take it and modify it. But feel free to modify this for your own business, right? This is going to be just a random stuff for a barbershop. So unless you're running a barbershop, it's probably not going to be directly relevant to you. But you can have a voice agent managing your calendar, doing your emails, whatever you want it to do. So then click on save, scroll down below the prompt and make sure to select AI speaks first, then select custom message. This will ensure that the AI agent always starts the conversation and doesn't wait for the human input. Next up, let's go to speech settings right here and let's select the background noise. This is very important to making it sound super realistic. You can choose any of these. I think coffee shop is the best one. But the most important is this functions right here. This is where we can connect our voice agent to our N8n agent right here. So click on add. Click on custom function, name it calendar agent, give it a clear description such as this tool is to check the available times on the user's calendar. After giving the available times, this tool will be used again to book the available time slot. Now, as far as the endpoint, this is where we need to go back into N8n, click on the original webhook trigger, click on production URL, copy this, just click on that, go back to retail and paste it in here. And then scroll all the way down and enable speak during execution and disable speak after execution. And just like that, we've connected our two AI agents. It wasn't hard at all. Now, before we test it out, let me also show you how to select the different voices, right? So here, we can select between 11 Labs, OpenAI, Cartesia. You can go through these, there's like dozens. If you want like a middle-aged, old, young, male, female, English, Australian accent, Indian accent, whatever you want, they have it all here. But more important than the voice is the fine-tuning of the model. So this is the voice model that's powering it. So by auto, it's 11 Labs Turbo V2. This is very decent. You can also use the V2.5. If you want even faster, the Flash is the fastest one. But then you want to customize the voice speed. I recommend going like 1.1. Otherwise, it's too fast. Default is also fine. Voice temperature, this is how emotional or calm it should be. I think for businesses, a bit on the calmer side works well. And the volume, you can do a bit louder. These settings I would recommend for most voice agents. So click on save. All right, let me show you a quick demo of the voice agent. First of all, we have to enable the automation inside of N8n. So enable it, that way it's active right here at the top. Switch back to retail, and we're going to start the test audio right here. By the way, let me show you. Calendar has nothing at 3 p.m. So actually, first I'm going to ask about 2 p.m. to see if it finds this event and if it declines. And then it's going to suggest alternatives. Let's see. This agent is powerful. It can do a lot. Let me show you.
Hello, how can I help you today?
I need to book a haircut for tomorrow at 2 p.m. Are you available?
Let me check availability for tomorrow at 2 p.m. for a haircut. Mr. 2 p.m. tomorrow isn't free. Here are the next openings. 3 o'clock, 3:45 p.m., 4:45, 5:30 p.m., 8:45, 9:30 p.m. Which time would you like?
Okay, I guess let's do the 3 p.m.
Booking the haircut tomorrow at 3 p.m. for 45 minutes.
Boom, there we go. And it booked the haircut. So even if it checked my calendar, it see, okay, I have Vector call at 2 p.m. and it rejected it and it successfully booked it at 3 p.m. So we can see the executions here in N8n. First, it ran the get many, right? The get many tool to see our calendar, to check what are the free slots. And then it used the create tool, create event, to add the tool into my calendar at the correct time. And you can use this for yourself, for your internal team automation and, internal usage, or you can actually profit with this by selling it to companies, because every single company in the next 5 years will want to add this, especially brick and mortar companies. So you might be thinking, okay, David, but how do I actually make money with this? Well, you should specialize in one niche, and ideally a niche that you understand. Could be consulting, could be coffee shops, mechanics, barbers, whatever you have some experience or some passion or you can resonate to them, target that niche. Plus, if you specialize on one niche, you can build pre-built agents for that niche. So you can literally build it, have it 80% done, and then just sell it to that niche, customize the last 20% so it's relevant to them, right? Like here we have some like fake name, sharp look barbershop, stuff like that. But if you target one niche, you save yourself so much time. You can customize your marketing, customize your targeting, customize your messaging, your offer to that niche. And since the perceived value of voice agents is much higher than just a chatbot icon in the bottom right of the website, let's be honest, everybody hates those AI chatbot icons. Everybody wants to talk to a human. And the reason is because people execute them terribly, right? They don't know what you're doing. They're not watching this channel. They're not logged in. They're not paying attention. They don't know what the latest and greatest models are. So people hate these chatbots. But a voice agent has a much higher perceived value. And if you're really locked in, you can even build an agent that will create the custom prompts for each new business that you're onboarding. So you can automate most of the custom work as well. And as I showed you earlier, just with a few minutes of browsing Upwork, there is hundreds of different companies looking. And you can see posted 2 days ago, posted 3 days ago, 5 days ago. People are willing to pay thousands of dollars for voice agents. So now you know how to build voice agents. But what does it look like once you've built hundreds of N8n automations? That is exactly what Nate Herk has done. He has built over 500 different AI agents inside of N8n alone, and he's one of the best teachers when it comes to N8n. That's why the following might be the most valuable N8n conversation you've ever heard. All right, Nate, so you've built hundreds of N8n automations and you've prepared one for this video. So can you show us what it's about and what it can do?
Yeah, absolutely. The workflow we're looking at today is a sales team of AI agents where we have one agent that's like going to write the initial copy. It's going to search through a project database. And then we're going to have a revision agent that's going to look at basically our human feedback and take those revisions into account, fix the email, and then send it back to us for approval. So the purpose of this flow is that whenever you have some sort of trigger, whether that's like a lead form submission or whatever it is, the agent will write the initial copy, but it's not going to actually send it to that lead until you've said it's good to go 100%. I like this email.
So basically human in the loop, right?
Correct, yeah. So yeah, it is a little clunky just based on using N8n's native human in the loop node, but it still gets the job done. So we'll go ahead and execute the workflow. Right now we're just pulling in an Airtable trigger, so assuming that the lead form would just update Airtable, and now we have the sales agent writing that initial copy. Like I said, it has access to our project database, so it's pretty much just going to take into account what did the lead submit the form for, have we done similar projects, and now it's writing that copy real quick. And then we're pretty much just going to send that to ourselves, get some human feedback, and then we'll take a look. So
if someone is completely new to N8n, like how fast could they build something like this? Because it might look intimidating, but it's actually not that complex, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. It's a very linear workflow. So I think when beginners hop into N8n, a lot of the troubles come with doing all these agentic tool callings, multi-agent systems. This is super linear. This is the only workflow, so it's really not too tough. Really, the main complexity would be this set node right here, which after this whole execution, we can kind of dive into why that's important. But yeah, definitely not too bad, especially if you're a beginner. It's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 total nodes. So really not too bad. But yeah, it's waiting for our feedback right now. So I'm just going to switch over to my Gmail that it's sending to, and we can see we have a new email, which is saying that we need approval for a new lead. In this case, it's Robert, California. We have the copy right here, but what I'm going to do is just scroll down to the bottom and hit respond. And now we're able to see it. It's going to tell us what this lead is looking for. So they have a budget of 10 to 15K, and our sales agent, Jim, has went and basically looked at any products we've done in the past, and now it's going to write some copy for Robert to make him feel more confident to choose us as his AI provider. Let's say we like the general overview of this type of copy, but maybe we want to make it a little shorter. And also let's do like a direct call to action. So rather than just saying a 30-minute call this week, we want to say like let's chat on Thursday. So I'm just going to say, okay, make this a bit more concise. So that's the feedback I'm going to submit to the agent. As soon as I hit submit, I'll switch back into the workflow and we'll see that the process is going to keep going down. So submit that, come back in here, and now it's checking feedback. And now we have our revision agent writing new copy for us. So you can see that was pretty quick. It's already come back, and we'll go ahead and go to the email. And we have
actually glad it shows an example like this, because I think it shows like the next few years it's not going to be fully automated AI, and people who do not use any AI, that's also not the way. So it's not like only human or only AI. I think AI agents plus humans, that really is the next few years, until AGI, until ASI. But yeah, stuff like this, where you still give your input, you steer the AI. I think this is really going to be the main workflow for the next 3 to 4 years.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a great point you made. And I think that's where a lot of people's fear around how quick the exponential growth and developments of AI have been coming, maybe losing control and stuff, but if you do it right, you can definitely keep control the whole way. So the great point that you brought up there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit respond. So we'll just pull it up kind of full screen. And initially we can already see, it keeps some of these nice metrics. It's a lot shorter. And it says, would you be available this Thursday for a 30-minute call? So now that we actually like the way that this copy looks, we will go ahead and just say like, good to go. And as soon as I hit submit, we'll go back into the workflow. And now it goes up down the other branch to say that it's approved. And it's been sent off to the lead. So in this case, of course, the lead was fake and it was my email. So we'll take a look here. And now we can see this is the final email that the AI agent was able to send off because we told it could. So
you didn't have to check the CRM. You didn't have to write the entire email. AI agent did that, and you just, gave one piece of feedback and approved it.
Exactly. Yep. 100%.
So how were you able to like identify N8n? Because you were one of the first people who really dove into it and went like all in on N8n. So what made you realize that building AI automation had the real potential?
Yeah, that's a great question. So kind of my background, I was in automation for a while, but never had like a formal coding background. So my full-time job when I graduated college was automation. Okay. And that was very no code, low code. But, everywhere in an automation process, you hit a point where you need like explicit human approval. But the problem with some of these human approvals was like, it was a very, very easy thing. And it was very, just a waste of a human's time to actually get in there and make a little bit of reasoning. And I was thinking to myself, man, if I could just plug in this automation into ChatGPT to have it make some of these decisions and keep going, it would save so much time. And that's when I kind of discovered AI automation, started playing around with Make a little bit. But, as soon as I saw one video about N8n, I loved the way it was very visual. I loved the way it had like agentic operations. And I also was doing like YouTube searches on N8n and there was almost zero content. So I was like, I'm going to learn this thing and just hopefully it kind of takes off, and it did. But yeah, the way I kind of see it is, a lot of people ask like, which one should you learn? And it's almost like they ask you if it's like a gamble. If you learn one of these though, those skills are going to transfer really well into any no code, low code platform. At least that's the way I look at it. So as long as you start getting in there and you start understanding the core things you need, like, creative problem solving, a little bit of data manipulation, those are the skills that you really need, not just like one thing. You want to become tool agnostic. So kind of my 2 cents there.
Yeah, it's more about like mastering the tool, right? Rather than switching constantly. It's like people asking like, which programming language should I learn? If you learn like a little bit of 10 different languages, you probably won't be able to land a job. But if you master one language, it doesn't really matter which one it is. Like there is going to be 6-figure positions for that language. So the mastery is way more important than choosing the tool. And as you say, if there is a tool that's drastically better, you will be able to switch much easier because you have that skill set.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really just comes down to like foundational skills. So we can kind of just go down each node and see what it's doing and kind of explain like the thought process on it. So, like I said, the trigger is always very, you can switch that out for whatever. In this case, it's just an Airtable trigger. So that's kind of what kicks off the workflow. So I'll open up the sales agent.
And by the way, I think that's important to like mention, because a lot of people, when they see like an N8n finished automation, they say like, I don't really need this. But again, you can swap the trigger for something that you want, right? Maybe you want a message from Slack or a message from WhatsApp or whatever. And same with the AI agents, you can customize the prompt for whatever you want. So this one, like if people don't need this specific use case, they can use the exact same workflow for hiring, right? Qualifying potential applicants. Like it takes just a bit of creativity to customize the prompts, the triggers, and make it useful for you.
Yeah, and everything's so like modular, and there's just like little building blocks you can copy and paste from anything, really. And if there are viewers that are new to N8n, you can go to N8n's website and there's like thousands of templates. And that's not to say you can copy it and just hit run and it's going to work for you and your business. But like David said, you just switch out a few things and you're already 80% of the way there. So cool. So, when you're in the agent, there's, you've got your user message and you've got your system message. So this is kind of like what it's going to look at each run. And then the system message is like how it should behave. So if we look at the actual user message, basically what the agent is getting is all of the information about the lead. So the name, the email, what their intent is, their budget, their company name, and then here's the actual project description that they left in the lead form. And then at the end, we have a timeline. So it's going to use all of this in order to write that copy. But it's also going to first look at its system message, which is just, defining its behavior. So I won't read the whole thing, but basically we told it you're an expert salesperson because we want it to understand its end goal, which is basically, we want you to get this person in to book a meeting. So now it's able to tailor everything towards that end goal. It has one tool called Project Database to look at previous projects. We basically told it some rules like you're going to receive information about a lead. Your main objective is convince them to book a call. And you want to retrieve information about previous projects so that they feel comfortable and they know that we can help them out. So that's kind of like what I told the agent. And as you guys saw, it used the tool Project Database. And now what it's outputting is a subject for that email, as well as the actual email copy itself. So we already took a look at this. And by the way, so I'm using Claude 3.5 Sonnet to write the copy and do the revisions. I don't know how you feel, David, but I think that I just love the way that Claude writes copy.
Yeah.
Sometimes with tool use, I like to use OpenAI, but yeah, I agree. I really like the way that Sonnet writes emails and content. So that's why I threw it in there.
Also, I think a side note on that, people kind of know what GPT models feel like. So I think like people can spot a GPT written email way faster than Claude written.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's always like the certain words I found really particular, like it says keen a lot, and I never really use keen in my day to day, or like it uses the long M dashes, which I would never use. Yeah, so whenever I see that, I know someone wrote it with GPT. But anyways, like I said, this is kind of the most tricky part of the whole workflow, which is the set node. And what this does is it lets you basically set a consistent variable. So we're just setting the email in a field called email, because the idea is that you have unlimited revisions. So if you wanted to make 5 revisions, you want the third revision to be made on the second email, and you want the 5th revision to be made on the 4th email. You don't want to always revise that very first one. So we're setting this every time. So basically this node is the source of truth, meaning whatever's in here is the most recent email copy that we've created in this execution. So that's why that's super important, and that's the only thing that may trip people up a little bit, but once you dive into N8n, I think it'll make a lot more sense. So from there, we're doing that human feedback node. One thing I wanted to call out is there's human in the loop nodes in N8n, and they're not just Gmail. You know, you've got Discord, Slack, Telegram. You can switch this out for anything. So what we do here is we send an email just to myself, and we have the subject, which is saying approval, new lead for lead's name. And then we basically give a description of what the lead is looking for. So here's all our variables. Here's what it actually comes through as. As you can see, it's going to change every time based on that actual lead form. And then, of course, we just drop in the actual email, whether that was the first one or the most recent one. That's what gets sent to us, as you can see right here. And so what this does is it makes you respond in some form. So whether that's free text, which is what we're doing, you could also do an approval button. You could do an approval or deny button. So that's pretty cool. But in this case, free text is better because we can make actual feedback, specific feedback, rather than just saying yes or no. So that's why we went for free text. And what happens is it captures the feedback that we sent. So like on the first time it said, make this a bit more concise. And then on the second time it said, good to go. So that's how it like captures what we said. And once it has our actual feedback, we're using AI to actually analyze. Is the human content or is the human not content? And so what I did was I put it in here. This check feedback node is using, by the way, it's using Flash 2.0 because it's free. So it's very fast model, free. So I just threw it in there for ease of use. But yeah, it's looking at our feedback, and it has 2 categories it can, classify it as, which is either approved or denied. So I gave it a little bit of an example of like, here's some approval messages, here's some denial messages. It's pretty intuitive. But anyways, it then will basically push something down the right branch. So over here we can see on the first run, it went down the declined branch. And then on the second run, it went down the approved branch. So it just interpreted this text. So obviously we have 2 paths. First, I'll just talk real quick about the declined branch, which is the revision agent. This agent's actually really, really simple. They're both connected to the same chat model, the same output parser. But like I said, really simple. We're giving it the email that's coming in, which is always the most recent one. And then we're giving it the human feedback. So here's the email, and then here's the human feedback, which was to make it more concise. And the system prompt is even simpler. It just says, you're an expert email writer, take the feedback, take the email, and make a new one. So super simple. And then it spits out our email. And then as you can see this line, it loops back into that set node, which like I said, is kind of our source of truth. And then it's able to send off the final email copy. So if you didn't have this, you could make 10 revisions, but then this node would still send that very first one. So it would just be a complete waste of time.
Yeah, so I mean, overall, something like this could easily be built in like an hour, maybe 2 hours if you're new to N8n, right? But once you build it, it will save you time forever. And I think that's like the main magic of automations, right? Like the time saved, it compounds. Like once you build 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 automations, you free up your time for the rest of your life, basically.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, something that's really important there is I think being able to identify processes that actually do compound. Because, something really flashy, like let's say a personal assistant, it's really cool, but that doesn't explicitly mean that it's going to save you time that compounds. But, something like this, I don't think you can argue that this wouldn't grow your business if you're able to respond to leads quicker without like as much time manually. And if you're doing that, you're going to grow the business, which means you're going to get more leads, which means the system's going to get more throughput. And like that's where the compounding sort of flywheel really kicks in.
And also like you can tweak the system prompts. Like if you notice like the emails are too long and every time you have to say like make the email shorter, you tweak the system prompt so that by default it's shorter, and then you save yourself even more time, right? And something like this, if you're getting hundreds of incoming leads, maybe you sell like a cheap service or you have a great lead magnet or something. You like doing this manually would not be the case. Like you would have to hire a VA or assistant to just do it. And again, even for those roles, it's a waste of time, right? So something like this for the right person, for the right business, could easily save them multiple hours per week. And just to give another example of people, what I built for myself, which anybody can build in like 5-10 minutes, is like a email N8n automation that checks every incoming email. And if it's not important, like some marketing or whatever, it just marks it as read. And for me, this is running on all my inboxes and it's saving me like 90% of time because most emails are not important, right? And if it is important, it just gives it a star. But if it isn't, it marks it as read. So when I go to my inbox, I see only like a few emails that really need to be addressed instead of like dozens that I need to go through myself. So there's literally like so many examples where you can build a simple automation. And as you said, most people are going for the flashy stuff, like, Jarvis 2.0, like automating your entire life, when the correct approach is going for the obvious time, like small time saves that compound.
Yeah. Actually, something I'd love to hear your take on real quick is, we get a lot of questions about the use cases of automating certain things. So like, let's say, for example, an inbox manager type of automation. And people ask, okay, so what happens when Gmail just builds this into their platform for free? There's always the element of like customization and integrations. So when it comes to like workflow building, especially this no code stuff with something like N8n, what do you think about, the next year, next 2 years, the landscape of like these solutions being viable or all of these templates becoming commoditized?
I think the adoption is going to outgrow the competition. Like there is going to be more and more tools, right? Some of them, like for example, like Lindy or whatever, are simpler than N8n, but are less customizable. It's always a trade-off, right? You can always go and like write custom code to do anything, but it's harder than drag and drop, right? So like the more easier it is to use, the less customization you lose. And obviously the great tools like N8n are both easy to use and very customizable. But I wouldn't be worried about like Google implementing an autoresponder and that just like destroys all N8n automations. The reason why is there's many reasons, right? But first of all, big companies move slow. Like Google barely is adopting AI. Like look at Cursor, right? Everybody wants Cursor in Google Docs. Where is it? Nowhere. Like Google has had the technology first. Like they invented a transformer in like 2017, it's like 2025, right? Like where is the next word prediction in Google Docs? It's nowhere. In Gmail, there is like some basic version of auto-respond, but it's pretty bad. And it's like, it's one level, right? It doesn't check your documents. It doesn't check previous conversations or what you're talking about with Slack with your teammates. It's not like a N8n where you can give it more data or integrate an AI agent or choose a different model. Google chooses which model it uses, and Google does like a default prompt, and you have zero control over that. So from my experience, none of the AI tools that Google has implemented into their workflows, whether it's Sheets, whether it's Gmail, whether it's Google Docs, have been useful. I've tried all of them, but they're not useful. So I wouldn't be afraid of big companies at all. And also, even when they adopt it, they're usually like scared to really make it agentic, right? They usually ask for approval 10 times. A great example is the GitHub Copilot. GitHub has all the code in the world. They should have the best AI agents. But if you go into the GitHub Copilot and tell it, under this issue, and you tag an issue, create 5 sub-issues, it cannot even do that. The best it can do is create one issue and get your approval. Why? Because the big companies are scared to build agentic systems that take actions themselves because they already have millions of paying customers that, would be mad if something went wrong. So this is, I think, the message for people watching this. Like, you can take a lot more risk with your N8n automations or your AI agents or your AI startups than the big companies can do because they already have millions of customers and they will not take those risks. So I wouldn't be worried at all about big companies replacing some of these workflows.
Interesting. Yeah, I think you touched on a lot of good points there. Absolutely.
And also, I think, like, in terms of the landscape, right, you have N8n, Make.com, Zapier. There's more and more competitors, and I know, like, multiple people building, like, a competitor to N8n. But a lot of reason why N8n is winning, I would say, is open source, right? Like, you can see how it works. You can self-host it. You can fork it if you have the technical skills to, do that. There's a lot you can do with it, and that's why people trust it, I think. Because when you're building something important into your business, you want to know how it works. Like, I think the most extreme example that everybody understands is Neuralink, right? Like, putting something into your brain is very risky. But if it runs on a safe open source protocol, it's way less risky. And I think the same with N8n. If you already have a successful business, 50 employees, 100 employees, you are hesitant about taking something closed and putting it in there, right? If you don't know how it works. But with N8n, you can literally go to their GitHub and check it for yourself.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's definitely the most like sort of when you look at the benefits it offers right out the box, like that is a huge differentiation right there. I think they also do a really good job of like building a community around it. I haven't seen a lot of companies or like platforms build a community where it's more than just like a tool to use, you know, like there's events and they do these live streams. And I think that that's one of the things that they're trying to build up. So they kind of stay in, you know, the top of the game for as long as they can. So
yeah, and also they're like AI first, right? A lot of these automation tools, they pretend to be AI first. I mean, let's be honest, every company nowadays wants to be AI first, right? But it's very clear which are and which aren't. The AI agent inside of N8n is way more advanced than any of their competitors. And also they were very fast to implement like the MCP connectors and stuff like that. So they actually are on top of the game and they're paying attention to what's happening. And they're like leading the way on these AI features that other companies maybe take 6 months or 12 months to copy. So that's another big thing.
It's, you know, they've been around for like over 5 years now, which is something that's pretty shocking to me. I think obviously most people probably started to hear about N8n beginning of 2025 when it really started to blow up on GitHub and on YouTube and everything. But yeah, just to think about how long they've been around and then this hockey stick growth they've seen in the past 6 months is it's pretty absurd. Their team is scaling insanely quick, so I'm sure they're dealing with some growing pains over there. But you know, something I thought that was pretty cool is, you know, like in N8n you've got this you've got your AI assistant. So if you were to get an error, you have like the AI, you know, Ask AI button that's kind of embedded into N8n.
Yeah.
And that's only available on cloud, or at least if you're self-hosted, you know, in the cloud, because they built their own N8n workflow that has like this automated pipeline of their source of data and, you know, their N8n forums of troubleshooting. And so like when you click on the Ask AI assistant button to get some help with your workflow or your error you're seeing, it's like it's scraping all of their knowledge in an N8n workflow and sending it all back. And I just thought that was really cool to see, you know, like the product is built in to help them with users that are on their product. I thought that was pretty cool to see, eating their own dog food.
Yeah, dog fooding. This is like one of the most important things when you're doing anything. Like, if you're not the number one user of your own product, you're gonna get destroyed, especially in a competitive niche like AI. I think AI is the most ruthless industry in the world right now, right? It's growing the fastest. People, like businesses, are entering every single day. So if you're not the number one user, like if you're building something you don't really care about, you're gonna get destroyed. And I think this is like, even when it doesn't matter if it's N8n automations or building an AI startup, like if you are doing it just for like a, you know, one project or whatever, you will not see all of the quirks, all of the like tweaks, all the details, right? But if you're building something for yourself and you really care about that problem, you'll be able to solve it better than anybody else. So I think this is why, you know, the N8n team did a great job with that AI assistant, is because they're using it internally. I guarantee you they have hundreds of N8n automations in their company, saving them, you know, thousands of hours probably, because that's how you know someone is dog fooding. Same with Claude Code, right? You can tell the difference between Claude Code and like Codex CLI in a second. It's just like, you know which company actually uses it day to day and which doesn't. So it's the same with N8n automations. Let me flip the question back to you, Nate. What's your thoughts on the future of AI automations in the next 1 or 2 years? Like, what are some trends you're seeing, some patterns?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, you know, so far it's always been, as much as we can try to be proactive and predict things, a lot of times you kind of just have to be very reactive. That's at least the way I've been in the past 6 months. But one overall trend that obviously kind of we're all seeing and that I'm really interested to see how it works in the future is with system prompting and just the way that these models are getting faster and smarter, and with these open source models slowly starting to close that gap between the top tier closed source and the open source ones. Definitely not there yet, but you know, I think the actual amount of time you have to put into a system prompt, I think and I hope will start to decrease as these models just get smarter and smarter at understanding the end goal and really how you get there. You know, I've already seen that in the past couple months of the difference between my tool calling system prompts with a GPT 4.0 compared to like the 4.01 mini. And with these different Claude models coming out, they're just absurd. You know, I'm sure you've seen those videos kind of blowing up on YouTube where it's been like, you know, Claude Opus 4 built me this N8n workflow. I built a Claude project, I gave it N8n docs, and it just can build whatever I'm talking about. So that's one thing, and it's one thing that I don't know what the future of it looks like when I'm, you know, NLP to AI agent builders or NLP to workflow builders. I'm sure that that's going to be a huge thing. I mean, we're very close to that already. I do think, though, that that's going to come with a huge sense of, like a false sense of security for a lot of people that are able to brain dump into an AI and it will give them a JSON to put into N8n and they're good. because there's a lot of elements, I think, kind of back what we were talking earlier, with just like gaining the fundamental skills when it comes to like how do you actually optimize this workflow as you get more users, or how do you build the right guardrails, and how do you actually like scale this thing up. So there's a lot of things like that I don't think workflow builders will be able to do. You may have to talk back and forth with them to troubleshoot, but I really think it's going to be important for people to understand like what's actually going on within each node and how you take a look at it. Like just looking at this workflow that we have pulled up right here, there's already a lot of things that in my mind I needed to do to fix this to make it actually more production ready, that probably a lot of people would not have thought about until they implement it into their business, and then it kind of crashes and burns, or it just wastes a lot of tokens. It starts producing inconsistent outputs. I think what a lot of people don't get right is the data. And I think that we've seen that a lot with our actual clients as well, because we kind of have to come in there. They're very, very excited to implement their first AI automation. They're very excited to talk about AI agents, but really you got to start from the very beginning, and you can't run before you walk, or you got to crawl first actually before you walk. And a lot of that just involves getting all the data right. We got to get it all in one place. We got to build that automated pipeline, because yes, I think that system prompting will become less, but the data and context you feed into these systems will never become less. Like that's the most important thing, to make these things specific to you, specific to your subject matter expertise, your business. And that's how you can really build a system that you actually want to let it be kind of hands off.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Like the value of data will even grow. And if anybody isn't collecting data on your customers or how they're using the product, stuff like that, you're just missing out on future application of AI. Because you can only ask for email and name, but just by asking one more text field, like what is your goal? Or like what do you do? What type of job do you do? That already is like infinitely more valuable. And if you run that through a model, you'll be able to craft a message that's way more tailored, right? Like imagine if you had to craft an email and you only knew their name and email. If you knew like one more data point about them, maybe even their age, maybe even their occupation, their location where they live, you could already craft a much more higher converting email just by having a bit more data. So I couldn't agree more. Data is priceless. And also you said like everybody, like I feel like N8n is still not in the mainstream, right? Because looking at this, if you're for the first time, might be intimidating. But again, we're only like maybe 6 months, a year away from everybody having access to this, right? So then the value will really be in the judgment and taste. Like you said at the start, recognizing which process should be automated. Because a lot of people can spend, 10 hours automating something that maybe the models aren't ready for, or maybe that they later realize they don't have the sufficient data for that. Or maybe they do automate it, but it only saves them like 5 minutes a month, right? And it wasn't worth it. So like recognizing what to automate, and then as you said, once you build it, like seeing the opportunities for optimization, that is the taste and judgment. So even when we're gonna have like perfect voice transcription that we're just gonna speak and the N8n workflow will appear in real time, perfectly connected to all your accounts, if everybody has access to that, the real difference will be like your skills, like how you understand how to tweak this, right? In what order, where to put a loop, where to put a set node, right? Like which model to use. All of that taste and judgment is only developed by repetition, by actually trying to be at the cutting edge and building lots of automations and by doing it, right? So I wouldn't be worried at all once we have like the perfect, speech to JSON builders where you can build an N8n workflow in 5 seconds by speaking to it, because everybody will have access to that, but there will only be a few people who know how to do it right, who know where to place it, how to deploy it, and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a great point. And like the whole process of like, let's say we're actually building something from scratch and we have a first POC, right? It's always the first thing you have is just the POC. And you don't know what you don't know. You have to identify guardrails. You have to see the patterns in the edge cases in order to build against those and protect against those. And maybe that's something else that's going to be after the speech to JSON builder, is like these QA agents that basically will send in, hundreds of prompts. We have the evaluations feature from N8n, but that doesn't exactly like take into account the evaluation, like results and go ahead and fix it. So, like we have these systems where we give it our workflow and it just tests it. And then it basically will take that feedback and it will adjust the system prompts, or it will adjust the logic, and it will identify edge cases and build in certain things to protect against that. That would definitely be the next step there, I think. But like you said, it's all about, you're still going to need that actual human person to think about like the deployment that's very, very specific to your business. And that's why it's like, custom solutions is kind of the main business that we're in right now. Hopefully, it starts to become more productized and you have these opportunities for a little bit more scale But right now the custom solutions, it's a very high touch experience, and it's really valuable.
I think as you said, like the key is improving the automations over time. Like so many people just build an automation and leave it running, right? But it's like, how do you measure the outcomes or how well it's performing? Once every business has automations, that's going to be the next frontier. Like the evals, the tracking, the data, the measurements, right? Like maybe getting, let's say for something like this, getting a sample of like 10 random emails and having an expert copywriter rank them, right? And then see like, okay, what was different on these? Maybe you use a different model, or maybe you tweak the system prompt, and improving those over time. I think that's going to be another like great opportunity after this is more commoditized. But like staying at the cutting edge and being able to adapt, I think that's the main thing. Because if people have this closed mindset of like, I'm going to learn N8n and only, or I'm going to only use GPT models because of X, Y, Z, that's not going to fly in the next few years. Like AI is evolving so fast, and the best thing you can do is actually not have any loyalty to any tool or AI model company and be able to switch if something comes up, right? When DeepSeek came on the scene earlier this year, it was the people were like loyal to OpenAI and built their entire app around OpenAI Assistance API or whatever that couldn't switch. And stuff like that could happen any moment, right? Like XAI might release Grok 3.5, it might be great. You never know what happens. But if you're not willing to adapt, that is the worst thing you can do. So I think if people watch this and they're like worried about what to learn, it's more about like, how do you stay at the cutting edge? Which maybe I can ask you, Nate, like what are some of the things that you're doing to make sure that you're at the top of AI automations?
Yeah, it's a great question. And something that I say to a lot of people in my community is, I can't tell you like where this is going to go, and I don't know where this is going to go, but the mindset should just be stay as close to it as possible, because we're all still in that very, very early adopter phase. And if you talk to the general person that's outside of the AI bubble, you're going to sound like an absolute expert to them, even if you don't feel like you are at all. So I just try to stay as close to it as possible. And, there's so many different forms of where you can get information to digest, whether that's YouTube, X, LinkedIn, or you're just in there getting as many reps as you can playing with it yourself. Now, I try to operate mainly in the no-code space, just given that's my target avatar. My target audience is no-coders, usually kind of beginners, not very technical. And, I'm only 8 to 9 months into this whole AI automation wave, the AI wave. My first use obviously was ChatGPT back in November of 2022. But, since then, I really started to pick up N8n in September, and that's when I really started to dive into AI. So it's very overwhelming. I feel very new to the space as well, but it's really just all about the reps. And when it comes to staying in the cutting edge, I guess, I'm always looking at what's new in N8n, and I'm always trying to look at what people are doing with code and what people are doing with the like cursor and this other stuff, and maybe see if there's principles there that I can try to bring over to a no-code environment, stuff like that. And
I mean, no-code is catching up quickly. Like if you showed this to somebody 2-3 years ago, they would be shocked, I think.
What I think is interesting too about this whole like AI hype right now is there's a lot of stuff that's going on that's not necessarily too new. It's just that because it has these new buzzwords around it, people are picking up on it. So like what I mean by that is this wave is really going to get more people more familiar and comfortable with just automation. Like before you even bring in AI, and there's a lot of like most businesses probably don't even have automations in place yet at all. But this whole buzz about AI automation is going to get them to look into it, and that will get them to at least start setting up some basic automations before you even have to introduce AI. Because the reality is, right now, everyone's trying to make money with AI. Everyone wants to spin up an AI automation agency or whatever it is. You could honestly go out there right now and become super, super profitable with just an automation agency. And that's something that we've seen when we're doing discovery calls with people and people in the community and whatever it is, like potential clients. You can add so much value with like something they're describing. You don't even need AI. You just plug it in, and it's automation. It's a lot simpler to build. There's a lot less things to consider with privacy, security, and prompting. But it still will provide a mass amount of value, mass amount of time savings, and the ROI is definitely there. I think the toughest part right now is being able to explicitly show the ROI, because it's a lot different than something like let's say you're working with like a social media marketing agency, or they're going to run ads for you. It's like, hey, you pay me $5K a month, you're going to see an increase in your revenue by $30K a month. Like that's so explicit. Yeah. But with time saving, it's just a lot different, even though it is there and it is very, very valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say like with the AI hype, there's two ways to look at it, right? I see it like some people say it's a bubble, but that kind of undermines the technology. I think it's a bubble in terms of like the valuations, like especially if you go San Francisco, you see like a business that barely is doing revenue valued at like tens of millions of dollars, right? So I think that could be a bubble, like that could burst, but it's not going to burst the value of LLMs, the value of this technology. That is going to only keep growing. So when people say like AI, is overhyped or it's a bubble, I think they're like, it's a reductionist statement. They're only talking about like the market valuations, which sure, they're overblown as with any trend or any massive wave, but then there is the underlying technology that is getting better and better. I mean, just like the models you're using in this automation, right? A year ago weren't even available. So like a lot of stuff gets unlocked when Claude 4 gets released, when O3 gets 80% price cut like it got recently, right? Now you can use O3 in your N8n automations like feasibly. Before, when it was 5 times more expensive, you really couldn't. But if you need a reasoning model, maybe you have like input from 5 different people and you want to make sure that the email takes it from all different people and really writes it solid, right? Then reasoning model would make sense. And now you can use O3 because OpenAI released O3 Pro and they cut the prices by 80%. So the field is evolving so fast. And yeah, like paying attention to what's happening, even if like on the other sides, like if you're node code, what's going in code, right? What's going in the creative space, like AI images, AI videos, even if you're not using those, there's a lot you can learn. And I think one of the best things you said is like, you can take away things from different niches or maybe like different areas of your industry and implement them into yours. And that's how you stay on the cutting edge. Paying attention, like maybe if you're a mathematician, paying attention to what biologists are doing to discover new species and trying to learn some of these principles to, solve a difficult equation. Like that's another powerful like heuristic, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. It's all about finding patterns in what works, whether that explicitly applies to your niche or not, but patterns are patterns. And if you look at everything that's grown, whether it's like people's YouTube, titles or the way they pitch their new products, there's these overlying principles that can be really applied to anything when you want to learn it or grow it or whatever it is.
Also, I would say like the value of talking to other people is super good, right? Like for example, you have your own community, which is all about N8n. So if someone wants to learn N8n, what's the best way to do that? It's to join a community of people who all of them are interested in N8n. Like what's the best way to get jacked? It's to join a gym and make friends with 5 jacked dudes who like keep you accountable, tell you all the tips, all the secrets, right? And you like learn that much faster. So I think this is another thing that will be like in the age of AI is communities of people that are with the same interest, because that's how you learn, right? Like it's been from this since beginning. You surround yourself with people with the same goal, same path, and that's how you want to upskill yourself the fastest. Because why would you reinvent the wheel and go out alone when there is like communities like yours that show you literally everything?
Absolutely. And it's like, if you're brand new, everyone is going to run into those same 8 problems getting started in that first week. And those 8 problems can either take you months or they can take you a couple days, just depending on, like you said, who you're surrounded with, if you're checking the right things. And that's
so
also
what are the mistakes like that you see among N8n beginners?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I'm talking about like N8n beginners, I'm thinking about people that are coming from a no-code background. I think the first mistake that I see is people jump straight into agents rather than workflows. And I think if you first learn workflows that are linear, you're going to have a way better understanding of, first of all, like JSON, being able to pass JSON through, understanding the schema, from JSON, understanding variables, and how you can map those and have dynamic, fields pass through your workflow. I think once you have a really good understanding of, workflow logic, understanding error messages, understanding APIs, then you can get into agents. So that's a big mistake I see. Another one is people just try to move too fast. So it's on the similar pattern, but people that jump into a workflow, but they don't understand like what even an API is or how to set up that HTTP request. And then they kind of set up one and then they think that they understand it because they did one correctly. But really there's no blanket statement pattern for every API. Like the truth is you have to go to the documentation and you have to be able to understand what you're reading. And so a lot of people I think don't understand the difference between, what is my header authorization here? What is the endpoint I'm trying to hit? What are the body parameters that I can tweak? And so I think that's a big one too. And I wonder, the last one I would say is it really just all goes back to creative problem solving and not jumping into a workflow before you have an idea of what the end goal is. So something that I teach in my community that I'm really, really, I really feel strongly about is to document the steps of the workflow that you want to automate before you ever get into N8n. I think that it just makes way more sense to, like have on the left hand side, you've got like a documentation in wireframe. On the right hand side, you have N8n, and you just are looking back and forth and connecting the pieces. It's like you wouldn't dump out all the Legos in a box and try to build it without looking at the manual. Like you need something there to guide you. So that's something that I'm pretty strong about. But from there, in my experience of all this N8n stuff I've done in the past 8 months, I basically have only seen like 12 error messages. But more realistically, it's only like 5 main ones you're actually going to see. So you need to understand what they're telling you and how to go, like where to look. And I think that's a lot of people's issue is they don't know which node errored. Well, they can see it's red, but they don't know why it errored or how. They don't understand what the error message is saying. But that's the only way you can actually get quicker at fixing these errors and understand what they're doing, because I don't know if there's like this misconception that experts can get into N8n and build a flow, hit run, and it will not error. Because it's going to error like throughout the way. And I'm sure when you're coding, like you always run into all these errors, and that's just like unavoidable. Yeah. But because you've seen those errors so many times, and because you know exactly what to go fix when you see, invalid API keys, like there are people who will see the error message invalid API key and will have no idea why it's breaking, So if you can't understand the error message and go try to look in the right place, that's going to be a big problem. And even if it's a linear workflow, even if it's an agent, whatever it is, you can go look at the data and see exactly what it tried to do. So that's a big thing. It's just being able to read what happened. Whether you're moving left from right, the nature of N8n is you've got your, it moves from left to right. Each node, you have your input on the left, you have your settings in the middle, and you have your output on the right. So it's just about understanding what came in, what did this node do, and then what happened. And you can basically be able to pinpoint exactly what's going on. And so if you can't pinpoint the problem, then you can't solve the problem.
For sure. And also not taking the errors personally, right? A lot of beginners, like if they run into an error, they think it's like them, they did something wrong. It's like sometimes, you just need to refresh the API key. Sometimes you need to do one perplexity search. Like with ChatGPT, especially if you're paying for the paid version, ChatGPT 03 and perplexity, I think you can solve like any error. I don't think there's anything in N8n that you would really get stuck on for more than like 30 minutes or an hour if you really do multiple perplexity searches and ChatGPT, especially since you can provide screenshots, provide context, like how the error happened, what you did. Like it's not your, like the error isn't personal to you. And I think, like you said, the senior automation builders or the programmers who've been doing it for years, they run into errors all the time. But the difference is that when you get an error as someone who has built dozens of automations, you don't like let that get you overwhelmed, right? And I think that's the mistake that beginners make. They see an error, and at the moment they don't solve it within like one ChatGPT prompt, they start to like panic a bit. They get overwhelmed, and they get the negative feeling, and it's like, they cannot push forward. But if you just stop taking them personally, like you said, open the documentation, right? A lot of people also have this limiting belief that docs are for experts, like for the programmers. Like actually docs, like if you're a beginner, that's your biggest friend. Documentation tell you like from the people who made the software how to use it in a simple and clear language. So using docs, actually reading them, you asking ChatGPT, those are the things that you can do to solve basically any error. And also another thing that you said, Nate, that's super important, is the willingness to learn a few of the basic technical terms. So many people shut off their brain. It's like, I'm not a techie, I'm not tech savvy. It's not for me. But like, if you just get rid of that limiting belief and you learn what APIs are, you learn what JSON is, you learn what system prompts are and how they differ from user prompts, what is HTTP request, the basics. If you just learn these basics, you'll already get so much further ahead than if you're willing to, like if you're shut off and you just try to vibe code everything. And, a lot of people have this mindset. They just want to have the AI do everything and they completely shut off their brain. And I think that's a very destructive mindset.
Absolutely. Yeah. Something that you mentioned that made me think of something funny. That's a great lesson is, when I first started, so just to give everyone context too, like in September, I didn't know what an API was. I was doing automation with just internal data, internal systems at my job. And I didn't have to learn what an API was. So I get into this world of N8n and I'm like, okay, I want to talk to my Gmail. I have to understand how to set this stuff up. I have to learn about APIs. And I remember this one day I spent about 3 hours trying to troubleshoot an error with an HTTP request. And I was getting the error, which was a 500. And so obviously that's like that's an error on their side. So it's not, I didn't do anything wrong, but I didn't know that. Obviously I read the error message, but all I had to do was a simple Google search to say what's a 500 code error, and it would have told me that's on the provider. So I spent about 3 hours changing my body request, changing the URL, doing all this kind of stuff, and all I had to do was read the documentation to see what responses were good or what responses were bad and what they meant. And so that's just a prime example of like, just kind of do your due diligence. When you get a response back from something, whether that's an error code or an error message in N8n, just look up that message. See what the service is telling you something. And so if you don't want to understand what it's telling you, then you're gonna just be banging your head against the wall for 3 hours when it could have been a 1 minute deal. So
yeah, I think this is like the biggest lesson of using AI to learn, right? Like everybody wants to use AI to build an automation, to get rich, to make money, whatever. But like actually you can use it to upskill yourself as fast as possible. Like Sam Altman said this himself in a recent tweet, and I think he was like half joking, but half being serious. He said like, if you're not using O3 3 hours a day to skill max, aka improve your skills, you're not gonna make it. And I think it's absolutely true, because whatever it is, whether it's building automations, sales, marketing, content creation, programming, if you use a cutting edge reasoning model for 3 hours a day to improve your skills and actually try to learn as much as possible, you cannot lose. I really believe that you cannot lose. So I couldn't agree more. Like trying to learn while you're building is one of the things that a lot of people are missing out. And by the way, I have a very similar story. It's funny you mentioned this. It was back in October when I started building my startup. I understood APIs on like a surface level, right? Getting an API key, whatever. But I didn't understand how front-end communicates with back-end through APIs. And only when I started building my AI startup and I needed to code my back-end APIs is when I had to look it up and truly understand it. So I have a very similar story of I didn't even understand APIs fully until I needed to. So this goes to show like people might look at us and think like, oh yeah, these guys have years of experience, but it's not true. Like, we're just willing to learn fast and trying to stay at the cutting edge. And sometimes you have to look dumb. Sometimes you have to do that embarrassing ChatGPT search or Perplexity search to, clarify something obvious. But that's the value of AI, If you had a human teacher, like whether it's programmer or a new language or whatever, you might ask a question, you might ask even twice. But for the third time, you probably will not ask because you don't want to look stupid because of the human dynamics. With AI, you can ask the same question 50 times. Like the LLM doesn't care, right? ChatGPT doesn't care how stupid your question is. So I think that's the real value of AI. Like even if you're introverted and shy, you can ask 20 times the same question, explain this simpler, explain this like I'm 5, explain this with an example, and learn infinitely faster than in any other way.
Yeah, like that's the exact way. People always ask me how I learn new things, and it's always Perplexity. I always do research with Perplexity. It'll give me a summary. I can tell it, like you said, I always say like explain it to me like I'm 5 or like I'm a complete beginner. Build me a step-by-step course on understanding this, and that's usually how I digest information and get familiar with concepts. I literally just did that a couple weeks ago because I was really trying to understand the difference between a Docker container and an image and a volume, and I just had to do Perplexity search on it and read through the articles it gave me as well. And another thing is, people may look at people like us and think we're experts and we know everything, but if you ask people in my community, on my live calls, in the post, whatever it is, they'll ask me something and I'll just be like, I don't know, like I have no idea. Yeah. There's just it's so wide and it's so broad, but we've kind of found a great area to kind of like zero in on. But what's cool about the community is people ask you questions and you don't know the answer, but that's how you keep learning, is because you want to help them at least solve it, look into it, and just kind of admitting like I don't know, but let's look into it. So I'm doing Perplexity searches multiple times a day, talking to O3 multiple times a day to explain things to me, even just to help me out with like decisions in my life too, when I really need just a thought partner to bounce ideas off of or explain things to. And sometimes the best way to learn in my mind is to teach, and that's kind of why I started the YouTube. And so sometimes I'll just talk to O3 and I'll explain something to it and see if it can pick out any errors I made in my explanation, stuff like that as well. So like you said, just really about leveraging these tools to become 10x more productive, just become a superhuman by knowing which tools to use in what scenario.
And I think people can use this hack, this is like the Richard Feynman hack of teaching others, even without having a YouTube channel or any social media presence. Like you will be forced to learn it if you like commit to teaching somebody. So just tell your friend like, listen, I'm going to teach you N8n. I'm going to teach you prompt engineering. And then if they agree, or your father, your mother, whatever, just tell somebody you're going to teach them something, and that forces you to like look into it. It's like, oh shit, now I have to actually understand it because I need to explain it to somebody. So this is, again, not everybody will create a YouTube channel, but you can teach basics of AI or, something you've learned to a friend, to a colleague, to a family member, and get that value by trying to explain it. Because it's only like, you only see the gaps in your understanding when you try to explain it. And it's like, oh shit, I don't really understand what this, set node does, or what this agent actually means, or what is a tool call. A lot of people don't even know what a tool call is. Well, it's just a thing that the AI agent can do on top of the LLM. Boom, you learn that and you remember that forever. So yeah, definitely teaching others is the way to go. And also, like you said, like we are also constantly learning. Like even people who do this for a living cannot be on the cutting edge. That's another misconception. Is like people oftentimes ask me like, David, what do you think of this? Like, Klein versus cursor versus this. And it's like, guys, I don't have time to test everything. Like, even though I do this full time, 10 hours a day, like I still don't have time, and that's where the communities come in. Actually, the first reason I tried N8n is because someone in my community told me like, listen, this is like a better version of make.com. I was like, oh shit, okay. And I looked into it because of my community. And then, that's because I had successful videos on it thanks to someone from my community. Same with MCPs, same with A2A protocol. It was by listening people in my community. And again, we cannot do it by ourselves. No person in this age of AI can be at the cutting edge, even if you scroll Twitter for 12 hours a day, right? Because you actually need to try the tools. So the value of surrounding yourself with people who are on the same mission, I think that's one of the best things.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's kind of a great note to end on. It's a great lesson for anyone that's trying to get into this space. And when you see the opportunity and you see what people are doing, it's very, very it's very exciting. And then as soon as you kind of get over that hump, it becomes very overwhelming. But it's just the people that can get over that initial overwhelmed feeling that are going to just explode their productivity, really learn about this, and really take advantage of this opportunity that we're currently sitting in. Because, it's kind of yes, it will always be here, but there's a very short window right now where it's like you can really get in here and be early and take advantage. So just gotta dive in and surround yourself with the right people.
Now, we've touched on a lot of things, but one thing we didn't talk about is cybersecurity, which is becoming more and more important as AI and agents get more advanced. In fact, AI-powered cyber attacks have 4 times higher success rate than traditional cyber attacks. But to protect yourself, you don't need to be a cybersecurity pro. In fact, all you need to do is build the following free AI agents in N8n, optimized for cybersecurity. This year alone, over 166 million individuals were affected by cyber attacks. But it only gets worse, because AI-powered attacks have a 4 times higher success rate than traditional phishing. For example, new techniques like AI voice spoofing, where people can clone your voice and call your bank, call your relatives, and extract money, are becoming everyday occurrence. And the truth is, most people have no idea how to guard against these. Also, let's be honest, for a lot of us, our digital life is slowly becoming more important than our physical one. Now, we all understand the importance of cybersecurity, but the truth is, most people don't do anything about it. And that's why I put together an AI-first cybersecurity course for 2026. I'll show you the free AI agents that manage my own cybersecurity and how to set them up. And the best part is, you only set them up once and they run forever, acting as your digital bodyguards in a sense. Now, just by having these free AI agents, you'll already be ahead of 99% of people when it comes to the cybersecurity. And no, you don't have to be a professional programmer to set these up. Now, the first thing you have to understand about cybersecurity is that most hacks and breaches are not some crazy hacker targeting you or some new zero-day attack. It's the stupidest things, right? Such as social engineering, someone pretending to be you and calling your bank, or just simple phishing links that you accidentally click. Now, this is actually good news, because in order to protect yourself against most hacks, like 95% of cyber attacks, you don't need to be a cybersecurity professional. You just need to follow a few basic things, which we will cover in this video. So pay attention. Number 1, setting up authenticator apps and not SMS. SMS is not safe. A lot of you are using SMS for 2-factor authentication, but what you don't realize is that people can spoof your SIM card and steal your 2FA codes relatively easily. So instead of SMS, you should use a proper authenticator app like Google Auth, Authy, 1Password Auth, doesn't matter, use a proper Auth app, not SMS. This already makes it much more difficult to break into any accounts rather than just having a simple password or password and SMS. Lesson number 2 is to protect yourself against phishing. Now, phishing is usually fake emails or messaging pretending to be from companies that you trust, your bank, Amazon, Microsoft, to steal passwords or install malware. Now, actually, the way to protect against phishing is super simple, and it's a 3-second thing. So anytime you see a link that is suspicious or something that's hyperlinked, just hover over it. Do not click right away. Hover your mouse over it and look in the bottom left of your screen to see the actual redirect URL. This will allow you to see where the link actually wants to take you. And if you think phishing attacks are a thing of the past, think again, because just last week there was a huge phishing wave hitting PyPy maintainers. And these are actually professional developers, so these are not dummies. These guys are serious programmers and they were still compromised. What happened is that the hackers were emailing the developers and maintainers of this Python package with fake verify your email or account suspended messages. So if anything has some kind of urgency, like quickly change your password or your account is about to be disabled, pay attention because it's most likely a scam. If you see a link and you are not sure if it's good or not, just paste it into VirusTotal before clicking it. So if you don't know what VirusTotal is, it's a free website that allows you to analyze files, URLs, or just search to see if something is malicious or if it's legit. But let's be honest, pasting every single link that you see into VirusTotal is a lot of manual work and you still might sometimes miss it and click it on accident. Which is why I built an AI agent for this to automate the phishing analysis of every single email that hits your inbox. And the real beauty of this AI agent is that you set it up once and it runs forever, which makes you much less likely to fall for any phishing scams compared to the average person. Alright, so let's jump into N8n and let's look at it. Now, if you don't know what N8n is, it's basically the simplest way to build AI agents. In fact, it's so simple that you don't have to be a programmer at all to start building. It's literally drag and drop. So, let me explain this AI agent. On the first glance, it might look complicated, but it's much simpler than you think. And we're gonna start by running the full workflow. So let me click on execute workflow. It's gonna fetch an email and then run it through the whole agent, analyzing it through multiple different sites. So let's break it down. Gmail trigger, pretty self-explanatory. It runs on your email and it checks your inbox every minute to see if there is any new emails that you received that haven't been checked yet. Then it sends the email content into this node, which splits it into batches in case there is multiple URLs. Now it seems like the AI agent has finished running, so in a second I'll show you the results of it. But first let me explain this code block because this is where a lot of people get intimidated. And it's actually very simple. We just use regular expressions with a short Python script, which by the way I got Claude to write, so you don't have to do any programming yourself. All you need to do is ask like, write me a simple script that parses raw body of a Gmail and extracts URLs using regular expressions. And even if you don't know regular expressions or what they are, you can just say, write me a simple Python script to do X, right? Just describe what you want. Claude just released Sonnet 4.5 and this model is really, really good. It will figure it out. So as you can see, Claude gave me a simple script. So what you would do is copy it, boom, and just paste it inside of the code block node to kind of clean it up, right? That's because then we have an if-else node. This figures out if there is a URL or not, because not every email that you receive is going to have some link, right? Most emails probably don't have any links, but if there is a link, you want to make sure that we run it through VirusTotal. So then here we have an HTTP node, which sends a simple post request to the API of VirusTotal. But at the same time, we also check URL scan. So URL scan is a similar service where it checks the contents of the URL for any malicious files or redirects or stuff like that, right? So even if half of this automation fails, you still get protected. So we hit both of these at the same time. Now, URL scan is a bit flaky, sometimes it fails, so that's why we have this error protection. And it also needs a 60-second delay, right? So we have this wait node. But then we get the reports from both of these and we merge them using this node combine. And then we clean the data once again. This time we use JavaScript. It doesn't really matter, to be honest. Like you can just Python JavaScript again. I got ChatGPT or Claude to write this, super simple. And the reason we need to clean that up is because here we have the AI agent. This is the brain of the whole automation. So let's look at how the AI agent works, right? So first of all, it has an AI model. We're using GPT 4.1 mini. This is the go-to cheap model for AI agents. Honestly, if you want a really powerful model, right now the Sonnet is just released, so Anthropic, you can change that. And you can instead use Anthropic models with the new Claude 4.5 Sonnet, which by the way, if you want me to make a video on that, make sure to subscribe and comment below Sonnet 4.5 and I'll make a video because this model is insane. Anyways, for cost-effective reasons, GPT 4.1 mini is a great choice. So let's look at the system prompt because this is what matters. To be honest, this system prompt is a bit advanced, so feel free to pause and take it. But basically what we do is we pass it all of the results from VirusTotal, from URL scan, we give it the raw URL, we give it the raw email data, and anything else the AI agent might need to make a decision on whether this is a safe email, whether it's, on the edge, or whether it is malicious. And this really is the power of AI agents, because normally you would have to do, some parsing, some regular expressions to figure out if there's some like keywords or some blacklist. And the AI agent can make the decision for you, right? He can take the inputs and figure out, is this a suspicious email? Is this sketchy? And if so, it uses this tool that sends you a Gmail message. Now, if you want something else, you can do Telegram, it can DM you on Telegram, you can do Discord, you can do WhatsApp, however you want the AI agent to contact you. Now, the third lesson in cybersecurity is using multiple emails. A lot of people have a single email for everything, and this is terrible. What you need to do is you need to separate your sensitive accounts like your banking, your finance, your logins from the email you use for public communication. For example, you could have email for applying for jobs, sending code emails, email for banking apps, sensitive work, and so on. Now, this is already a pretty advanced setup, but just having two different email addresses, right? One for all the public-facing stuff that other people have, and another that's like a series of random characters that only you know, that already hits the 80-20. The next lesson is updating your software. Now, most conspiracy theories turn out to be true, but one that is not true is that companies are scheming to slow your software down and that you shouldn't upgrade. This is very dumb because most software upgrades also include some security fixes. So when there is an actual breach or some hack, software companies work day and night to fix it as soon as possible. And by having the latest update, you protect yourself against most of the known exploits. But if all of your software is running old versions, you are exposing yourself to unnecessary risk. And the solution can be as simple as enabling auto-update on most of your sensitive apps. The next essential cybersecurity tip you need to know is email breach alerts. Now, what even are email breach alerts? They're automatic warnings when something sketchy happens with your email. Now, basically every month there is a massive email breach of millions of accounts, and you won't be notified when your email is included in these breaches. Now, of course, there are many issues if someone gains access to your email as a result of your email being included in a breach, right? They can access your banking information, they can change your passwords, they can email people on your behalf. It is a mess. And this can be much harder to detect because what if the attackers set up auto-forwarding rules that you don't notice on your email? It might take you weeks or months before you notice. Now, luckily, there is a way to prevent it, and that's by building an AI agent that monitors your main emails to see if they have been included in one of the recent breaches. And to do that, we're going to use the famous website, Have I Been Pwned? This is a popular breach notification service that will notify you if your email has been compromised. Now, if you think, David, I keep my email safe, I have multiple passwords, my password is strong, right? There's 15 billion accounts that have been compromised. So check your emails, you'll be surprised. Now, what happens when you underestimate this threat is that you can lose a lot of money. And this happens even to big companies. There was a Canadian university that lost $10 million. The parts supplier to Toyota lost $37 million through a simple email scam. Now, luckily, you can prevent this with this simple AI agent. So as you can see, there is a lot less modules or nodes here than the first one, but it's even more powerful. So we have a schedule trigger. This runs every single day at 9 a.m. You can change this to run once a week if you want, but I think daily is good. And then it gets a list of your emails through Google Sheets, right? So again, I recommend you having multiple emails, minimum 2. Minimum 1 for secure stuff and 1 public-facing email, but ideally you have a lot more than 2 emails, and you can keep them securely in a single Google Sheet, which then we check each of them through Have I Been Pwned. So again, HTTP request to the API of this website with your emails being appended in a variable at the end of the URL. This means that we are regularly running all of your emails through Have I Been Pwned. Something that most people never do, or they do it like once a year. If you set this up, it checks it daily. So this is what I mean that it's going to take your cybersecurity to the next level. And again, the report goes to an AI agent, which can decide whether something has been compromised, in which case it will decide to notify you. And if not, all is good, you can sleep well. But as you can see, it doesn't take a lot. This is like, 6 nodes total. And it's a very powerful N8n automation that you have to build once and it works forever. This is the beauty of AI agents. The next lesson is kind of obvious, but password sharing is bad almost in all cases. Now, it's one thing sharing your Netflix with your friends. It's another thing giving your phone code to your wife, to your girlfriend. Those are much worse practices, right? And it's not because your girlfriend works for Mossad. It's because the more people have access to your accounts, the higher the attack vector, right? All it takes is one person to click a phishing link, and if there's 5 people who can access your email, it doesn't make your email 5 times less secure. It's more like 25 times less secure. So even though it's obvious, it doesn't hurt to remind ourselves that the less password sharing you do, the less likely it is that your password gets leaked. The next lesson is uninstalling apps. That's right, even a simple thing like this can reduce your exposure to these exploits and breaches. I mean, if there is an app on your phone or your computer that you haven't used for 3+ months, just uninstall it, okay? There's no reason to have so many apps. You also save storage, but most importantly, you reduce the attack surface of something being compromised, right? If you have 100 pieces of software on your machine, it's much more likely that one of them has some exploit than if you only have the 20 apps that you actually use. So just try to keep your devices as clean as possible and get into habit of uninstalling an app for each new app that you install. Real quick, if you're finding this video valuable, please make sure to subscribe. It takes 2 seconds, it's completely free, and it tells me that you want to see more videos like this one. Thank you. Now the next lesson is a bit more advanced, and that is auditing your websites, especially if you're a vibe coder, okay? So if you used AI to build any software in the last 2 years, pay attention. Now again, I built an AI agent that will do this for us, but it is very likely that your website is either not secure, it's leaking more information, it has some authentication oversight or some other security issue. You don't want hackers or bad actors to find that out. You want yourself to find it out and to fix it. So I call this AI agent the Website Security Auditor. And basically what it does is that it regularly tries to pen test. Pen testing means penetration testing, which means checking your website for any vulnerabilities. And this is especially important if you are building a startup, right? Because not only can they hack your own accounts, they can get customer data as well. And that really is the worst case scenario. You know, just last month there was the T app, which got a massive breach because it was sloppy and it left an exposed Firebase bucket that was publicly accessible to anyone with that URL. Now, if that person had this AI agent that I'm about to show you, they probably wouldn't have ruined their whole startup. So here is what the agent looks like. The trigger is a landing page URL, right? So obviously you're going to put your own website, or if you're doing this for a client, maybe you can put his website. So then we take the URL and we scrape the contents of the website, which we route into 2 different paths with 2 different AI agents on each path. So on the top one, we have a code node which extracts the headers and sends those into our security AI agent. And this one just does a very basic analysis of any leaking metadata or issues with your headers specifically. Now, the agent at the bottom is running a more powerful model like GPT-5. You can also change it for, Sonnet 4.5 to have one OpenAI and one Anthropic to have even more exposure. But basically, these 2 AI agents look at your website, at the structure of your landing page and your login page, and look for potential ways that a hacker might attack your website. Now, to be perfectly clear, if someone is a professional hacker and wants to hack you, you probably stand no chance, right? Because those are genius programmers. So the best thing is do not piss off any hackers. But this is just another protection that if you build a vibe-coded site, having this N8n automation run through it is gonna decrease the likelihood of you having any obvious exploits on your landing page. All right, so let's continue. We have the merge node again. We merge the outputs of these 2 agents into a single result. We then aggregate the results. We run them through 2 different code nodes. This one is processing and parsing, and the second one converts it to HTML. That way we can then send it through an email. Again, feel free to use something else, Slack, Discord, Telegram, whatever you want to be notified on, right? It doesn't have to be Gmail. The reason I added Gmail is because everybody has the Gmail, let's be honest. So yeah, this AI agent, pretty simple, even though it might look intimidating. But if you've built an AI-coded website over the last 2 years, please run it through an N8n automation like this one so you don't have any sloppy security issues. Next up, if you don't already use a VPN, you probably should, right? First of all, if you live in the UK, the government just wants to track you completely, so you need a VPN just for that. Second of all, if you're using, like airport Wi-Fi or McDonald's Wi-Fi, having another layer of security never hurts. So what a VPN does is that it hides your IP address from the sites and the apps that you use, which makes it harder for attackers or governments to track where you are, where you're coming from, stuff like that. Now, a pro tip, when it comes to VPNs, just please check who owns the company of your VPN. Because let's just say a lot of these VPN companies are owned by people like the Vercel CEO and his friends. If you know, you know. Anyways, the last bonus tip is something that even Zuck himself, which is a professional programmer and a multi-billionaire uses, and that is taping your ports, right? So if you work in an office especially, a lot of monitors, a lot of displays have like USB ports behind them. You can go to the next level and do that even for a laptop, right? And the reason why you should do this is that you never know if someone inserts like a USB stick into like a hidden port in your PC in the back. It can take you months, if not years, to notice. Another thing is having this camera cover, right? This is something you can buy on Amazon for like $2 or $3, and it's a great thing to have for extra peace of mind. It allows you to still have your camera on your laptop, so it's much better than just taping it. But if you aren't on a video call, just slide it over and it's covered. And obviously physical protection is better than just hoping the software is good. And there you go. This was the complete N8n guide. You're one of the very few people that watch until the end, which means you're serious about AI. If you want to actually take it a step further and build a real AI business, I just made a whole video about that. It's going to be linked here, so go watch that now.